Chapter 787 Future Plans. Chapter 787 Future Plans. Su Zimo wiped away the tears on Yan Qi's face gently and handed her a storage bag with a smile. "Don't cry anymore, here's a storage bag for you." He sounded as though he was coaxing a child. Yan Qi was both embarrassed and worked up, but she could not contain her curiosity. She received the storage bag and opened it while asking, "What's inside?" "Ah!" she exclaimed when she saw what was inside and raised her head to look at Su Zimo perplexedly. The storage bag was densely packed with spirit weapons. There were even countless bottles of elixirs. Not only that, Yan Qi even caught sight of Su Zimo's blood quencher, coiling dragon seal, moon concealment bow, black gold arrows and 27 supreme-grade flying swords that had lightning streaks coiled around them. There's more than 12,000 superior-grade spirit weapons, 432 supreme-grade spirit weapons, 21 perfect-grade spirit weapons, 5 Khanate spirit weapons and 10,800 various elixirs. Su Zimo said, "Take this storage bag along with you when you return to the sect and hand it over to Senior Crane." Most of the weapons were obtained by him when he annihilated the Glass Palace faction after he entered the ancient battlefield. Ah! Yan Qi was a little stunned and was unable to react. Su Zimo explained, "I'm about to advance to the nascent soul realm. Although these weapons are precious, I no longer have a use for them." After the battle at Ethereal Peak, the other 4 major sects suffered great losses. Now that Senior Crane has advanced to the Dharma characteristic realm, the rise of Ethereal Peak is only a matter of time, and these are the items that we are lacking right now. This was a vast fortune. If anyone else knew that Su Zimo had given away so many spirit weapons and elixirs casually, their eyeballs would probably pop out. There were not only large amounts of weapons and elixirs, there were also 5 Khanate spirit weapons. This would set up a foundation that would match even upper sects and aristocratic families. It won't not be an exaggeration to claim that Su Zimo could establish his own sect given his current capabilities and treasures in his possession. Ethereal Peak had been established for thousands of years and was considered as a major sect within the Great Zhou dynasty. However, they were nothing much compared to the entire North region and Tianhuang mainland. The foundation of Ethereal Peak was way inferior compared to the 108 upper sects, let alone other supersections. The boost to Ethereal Peak will be clear if they could obtain these spirit weapons and elixirs. Yan Qi was disappointed and asked with raised brows, "Young master, are you not intending to return?" Su Zimo had a conflicted expression as he replied, "I won't be able to return to the sect for the time being." He was now at odds with Glass Palace and he would only bring upon an apocalyptic disaster for Ethereal Peak if he returned. In reality, he had already expected this situation the moment he declared war upon Glass Palace. He no longer had any attachments to the secular realm after Su Hong's demise and had long prepared to leave the North region. The Tianhuang mainland was vast and he could take the opportunity to explore it. At the very least, he had to possess the strength to kill Dao Bing Xianyu by the time he returned to the North region. Previously, Dao Bing Xianyu beat him down to the bottom of the Dragon Burial Valley at the battle in the Great Qin Ruins. Thereafter, Su Hong's death and the annihilation of the Yan country were all related to Dao Bing Xianyu. Coupled with the grudge of his severed wrist and crushed cores, there was no way Su Zimo was going to let that person off. Yan Qi sighed gently. "Actually, Master has already expected this. She said that given your character, you will definitely choose not to return so that we won't be implicated." Su Zimo was silent. A moment later, he said slowly, "However, there will definitely come a day when I will return. I will return with glory righteously." Ethereal Peak was good to him and everyone within had treated him well. Otherwise, Su Zimo would not have been so generous to donate all the elixirs and spirit weapons he collected, including Blood Quencher and the Coiling Dragon Seal. Yes. Yan Qi nodded. She also said that Ethereal Peak was going to get stronger and stronger. "There will definitely come a day when the sect will be able to protect our own disciples so that they won't have to flee for their lives." If they had not sensed that the sect was going to be destroyed, how would Xian Yi and the other leaders have allowed paragons such as Little Fatty, Ji Qingtian and the others to leave 20 years ago? If Blood Quencher and the Coiling Dragon Seal are all in the storage bag, what are you going to use, young master? Won't you be in danger if you encounter Diyin without weapons on hand? Yan Qi was worried. Su Zimo replied with a cool gaze, "If I meet Diyin again, I'll kill him with my bare hands." He was not exaggerating. If Su Zimo released his inner core and golden core along with many trump cards without restrictions, he could suppress Diyin even if he was barehanded. As for weapons, he had the bronze square tripod and mystic magnet mountain in his storage bag. Those two weapons alone could defend against thousands of weapons. Furthermore, the reward for the golden core phenomenon ranking would be disseminated soon. If he was lucky, he might get his hands on a suitable dermic weapon. Nian Qi pondered for a moment and asked again, "Where are you intending to head to, young master?" Su Zimo replied, "I haven't settled on anywhere yet." In truth, for the past few days, Su Zimo, Monkey, the Spirit Tiger and everyone else already had a rough sense of direction. They wanted to make use of the ancient battlefield to leave the North region and explore the demon regions of Tianhuang mainland. Su Zimo's identity was sensitive and he would be watched by countless people after the battle in Myriad Phenomenon City. If he brought Monkey and the others who were demon beasts with thick demonic chi along into the cultivation world, they would definitely attract endless trouble. The best method was for them to enter the demon regions. Once they cultivate their essence spirits in the demon regions, Monkey, the Spirit Tiger and the others would be able to advance to become fiend demons. At that time, they would be able to absorb the demonic chi around them and it would be difficult for them to be discovered when they return to the cultivation world. Monkey and the Spirit Tiger had resided in one of the 8 demon regions, the Wild Lion Ridge, for a full 20 years. They even qualified for 2 positions to enter the ancient battlefield and had quite a bit of experience. Now that the 7 of them siblings were gathered together, it was not going to be difficult for them to make a name for themselves in the demon regions. Everyone else aside, Monkey was particularly excited about this. His dream was always to be the king of a mountain and reign over a part of the world. In the blink of an eye, a month passed. During this period of time, many cultivators recuperated within Myriad Phenomenon City and their injuries were mostly healed. The wounds of those with severe injuries had stabilized as well. This day Lin Xuanji came knocking with a smile. "Brother Su, let's go. The ancient phenomenon steel is opening up today. Let's see what rewards there are for the phenomenon ranking this time round." "All right." Su Zimo's eyes lit up and he nodded his head. He was looking forward to this. Many cultivators came forth from their respective seclusions and headed towards the Myriad Phenomenon Peak. Although the cultivators on the phenomenon ranking were the only ones who would get the rewards, many cultivators wanted to join the crowd and see if any Khanate dermic weapons or heaven-grade cultivation techniques would appear. Perfected Lord Yu Jun, Perfected Lord Luo Shui and Monk Yin Lu had arrived before the Myriad Phenomenon Peak long ago. Scabs had already formed on the injuries of Perfected Lord Luo Shui and Monk Yin Lu after a month and there wouldn't be any sequelae either. However, Perfected Lord Yu Jun was severely affected by the loss of his arm. There was no hope for him to regeneration his severed limb unless he cultivated to the conjoint body realm. The conjoint body realm was way too far ahead. The path of cultivation was arduous and treacherous. One could lose their life with a single mistake. How many people could guarantee that they would be able to advance to the conjoint body realm throughout history? Cultivators on the phenomenon ranking, come over to where I am to collect your rewards. Perfected Lord Yu Jun's voice carried a hint of weakness. The damage on his body was too great with the loss of his arm. Only the top 10 cultivators on the phenomenon ranking were qualified to select their treasures from the ancient phenomenon steel. The rewards for the other cultivators were disseminated by cultivators of Enigma Palace. The gigantic spear was around 30 feet long and the tip of its spear was two-pronged and shone with a cold glint. Mysterious patterns were etched on the body of the spear and it blended well with the spear tip to give off a domineering aura. For ordinary cultivators, it would be impossible to utilize a gigantic spear that was this clumsy and heavy. It was only suitable for a cultivator that was as muscular and massive as Pang Yu. Many cultivators turned towards Su Zimo instinctively after the birth of 3 Khanate dermic weapons. Strange. Why hasn't the light on Su Zimo's body dissipated? Su Zimo's eyes were tightly shut and he was motionless. The water current, from the ancient phenomenon steel washed through his body time and again. Su Zimo had a feeling that the life within the ancient phenomenon steel seemed to be trying its best to scan his body and uncover his secrets, but it could not do it. An unknown period of time passed. Finally, the light on Su Zimo's body dissipated gradually. 2 items hovered above his head as well. However, both of them seemed antiquated and did not glow at all. One of them was an ancient book. It should be a cultivation technique or secret skill but nobody could tell. The other was a bare green lotus platform that was incomparably dark without any patterns. It was so battered that nobody would bother to pick it up if it was thrown at the side of a road. What are those? I've got no idea. They have no dermic patterns either, so they must be trash. The rewards for the phenomenon ranking this time round have already been extraordinary with the birth of 3 connate dermic weapons. There can't be any other good things appearing. Su Zimo's luck sure is pathetic. Many cultivators discussed softly. That doesn't make sense. Lin Xuanji glared at the 2 items that hovered in midair and frowned, murmuring slightly. This lad managed to take away quite a bit of the dragon vein back in the astral dragon sputum lair, and he is imbued with great fortune. This shouldn't be the case, right? Could that cultivation technique be way too shocking? Out of curiosity, Lin Xuanji headed forward and asked softly, "What is that cultivation technique?" Su Zimo retrieved the ancient book from midair and flipped it open gently. 4 words were written on the first page: Great Day Rulai Sutra. Lin Xuanji was stunned when he saw the 4 words. Su Zimo's pupils constricted slightly. As the current generation's successor of Enigma Palace, Lin Xuanji had a vast knowledge of things and naturally knew the origin of that cultivation technique. Su Zimo resided at the bottom of the Dragon Burial Valley for 20 years and learned the skills of Fahua and Daming monasteries. Furthermore, he recited sutras, paid respect to Buddha, and comprehended Zen daily. As such, he knew quite a lot of things about the Buddhist monasteries as well. In the ancient era when the path of cultivation was first civilized, the Buddhist monasteries were not part of the major factions that they were known as today. The Great Day Rulai Sutra was a mystic classic of the Buddhist monasteries back in the ancient era and was a heaven-grade cultivation technique for refining one's spirit. It was said that when cultivated to its peak, this cultivation technique could create the supreme dharma characteristic of the Buddhist monasteries, the Rulai dermic body. A single arm raise could destroy the world and subdue fiends. Su Zimo put the mystic classic of the Buddhist monasteries away in his storage bag without emotions. Even if any other heaven-grade cultivation techniques were revealed, many cultivators would covet them, let alone the Great Day Rulai Sutra. Right now, coupled with the Purple Thunder manual that was in his storage bag, Su Zimo possessed 2 heaven-grade cultivation techniques meant for spirit refinement. Given such conditions, the progression of his cultivation path would require much less effort after he advanced to the nascent soul realm. Su Zimo raised his head and looked at the battered green lotus platform in midair with furrowed brows. He was the number 1 of the phenomenon ranking. There was no way the ancient phenomenon steel was going to give him any casual trash item. However, he could not tell what was special about that green lotus platform. Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat as he turned towards the 3 nascent souls who were not far away. Perfected Lord Yujun turned to look at Monk Yin Lu beside him and asked deeply, "If I'm not wrong, this green lotus platform should be that legendary object, right?" "It should be." Monk Yin Lu had a stern expression as he nodded. Chapter 789 Legend of the Immortal World. Chapter 789 Legend of the Immortal World. Su Zimo asked, "Seniors, may I ask you guys what this is?" Creation Green Lotus. 3 words sounded from Monk Yin Lu's mouth. Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat. There were only brief descriptions of the Creation Green Lotus recorded within the Sutra chamber at the bottom of the Dragon Burial Valley. Su Zimo only knew that the Creation Green Lotus was once an emperor weapon of the Buddhist monasteries. Emperor weapons were the destiny dermic treasures of emperors themselves and possessed the might and force of an emperor. They were even stronger than the Dharma treasures used by patriarchs of the Mahayana realm. However, why was a legendary emperor weapon in this state? The lotus platform was old and dark without any life. In fact, it was barren without any petals on it. Monk Yin Lu could see the confusion in Su Zimo's eyes and explained, "The Creation Green Lotus before you has withered, that's why it's in such a state." Withered? Su Zimo was even more puzzled. How could weapons be withered? Monk Yin Lu continued, "The Creation Green Lotus has to be nourished by one's essence spirit to trigger its life force so that it can regrow its petals and lotus seed. Legend has it that there are 9 grades to the Creation Green Lotus, and at its highest level, it is called the Grade 9 Creation Green Lotus. Of course, there are also legends that state that the highest grade is 12. Monk Yin Lu paused for a moment before shaking his head. Naturally, it doesn't matter whether it is 9 or 12. The reason for that is because the highest graded Creation Green Lotus that has ever appeared in Tianhuang mainland was only at the 8th grade. How many grades is this current lotus seat? Su Zimo could not help but ask. Gradeless. Monk Yin Lu smiled. Ugh. Su Zimo smiled as well when he heard that. How could this green lotus be graded when it was already withered? What do the grades actually mean and how do you differentiate them? Su Zimo was filled with curiosity and asked again. The creation green lotus's life force will be triggered when it is nourished by one's essence spirit. When it is filled, it will undergo a creation process and experience a reincarnation cycle. Monk Yin Lu explained, the grades refer to how many times a creation green lotus has reincarnated. Each time it reincarnates, it will create a layer of 9 green lotus petals and 9 lotus seeds. That's the grade 1 creation green lotus. When its growth reaches its limits, the grade 1 creation green lotus will undergo a second reincarnation and a second layer of petals with 9 new lotus seeds will be created on the lotus seat, so on and so forth. Su Zimo roughly understood. The simplest way of determining the grade of a creation green lotus was through looking at the layers of petals on the lotus seat. The grade 9 creation green lotus would have 9 layers of petals. The density of the stacked petals could be imagined as they lined up densely within with the smallest petals deepest before blossoming outward with the larger petals outside. Monk Yin Lu pondered for a moment and continued, at grade 4 the creation green lotus can match a Khanate perfected Lord Dermic weapon. At grade 5, it can go against a void reversion Dermic weapon. The creation green lotus itself possesses mystical power which is something that many Khanate Dermic weapons cannot match. Even Khanate Dermic weapons could not match it. That was a remarkable appraisal. Su Zimo looked at the battered green lotus seed in his palm and a blaze was ignited within his heart. This was even more precious than Khanate Dermic weapons. Heis. Suddenly Monk Yin Lu sighed. Actually, I don't know whether this creation green lotus is a blessing or curse for you. Su Zimo was stunned. How could a treasure as such be a curse? Monk Yin Lu continued, for the creation green lotus to grow, the nourishment from one's essence spirit is required. Furthermore, the power of essence spirit that it requires is extremely immense and nobody can handle it. Throughout history, the creation green lotus has been passed down and moved between dozens of paragons. However, most of them ended up being burdened by it. Gradually, nobody wanted to touch it anymore. When a cultivator uses his essence spirit to nourish the green lotus, it was only natural for his cultivation progress to stagnate. That's the reason why the highest graded creation green lotus in Tianhuang mainland is only grade 8. Monk Yin Lu continued, throughout history the ancient Buddha emperor was the only one who nurtured the grade 8 creation green lotus thanks to his unparalleled wisdom, determination and boldness. This is an emperor weapon that was recorded in the ancient manuals. Even with the power of the Buddha emperor, he did not dare to attempt to grow it to grade 9. Su Zimo had a calm expression. He was not worried about that. Right now he was in possession of 2 heaven-grade cultivation techniques meant for the spirit, the Purple Thunder Manual and Great Day Rulai Sutra. Be it in terms of cultivation speed or the purity of his essence spirit, he would definitely be the strongest in history. Su Zimo refused to believe that he could not refine the creation green lotus even with 2 heaven-grade cultivation techniques. The reason why this creation green lotus is so mystical is because it isn't something from Tianhuang mainland. Slowly, perfected Lord Yujun said, legend has it that it came from the immortal world. Su Zimo was in the midst of contemplating how he should nurture the creation green lotus. At the mention of immortal world, his heart skipped a beat and he spun around asking hurriedly, what's the immortal world? Where is it? How do I get there? This was the first time Su Zimo had heard of the words, immortal world. Immediately he thought about Dayu. Before she left, she once said that they were not from the same world. Along his path of cultivation, Su Zimo gradually realized that Dayu must have headed to a vast world of another level. Furthermore, there was a high chance that the world was the legendary ethereal immortal world. Perfected Lord Yujun gave a bitter laugh. There's no way a cultivator of my level knows where's the immortal world or how I should get there. Su Zimo gradually calmed down and realized that his question was rather abrupt. The immortal world is only the way the immortal sects refer to it. As though he could read Su Zimo's mind, perfected Lord Yujun elaborated, those of the Fiend sects call it the Fiend world and those of the Buddhist monasteries call it the Pure Land. Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat. In that case, wouldn't those from the demon race call it the demon world? In any case, there is definitely another world as such outside of Tianhuang mainland, somewhere where experts are abundant and immortals and fiends tread. Many people refer to it differently and some people just call it the upper world. It is said that a portion of the ancient emperors have ascended to the upper world as well. Su Zimo's heart could not help but race at the mention of that. He gulped and tried his best to compose himself before asking slowly, "Senior, may I ask if you've heard of something called the Great Wilderness within the upper world?" Great Wilderness. Perfected Lord Yujun pondered carefully with a lost expression before shaking his head. Su Zimo felt relieved. Perfected Lord Yujun was merely at nascent soul realm, and even if he knew anything about the immortal world, it was merely hearsay. He wouldn't be in direct contact with it. Su Zimo believed that as his cultivation realm advanced, he would definitely find out more secrets. The distance between him and Daiyu would decrease. This creation green lotus is mysterious and possesses unfathomable power. You must be careful if you're using your essence spirit to refine it. Perfected Lord Yujun reminded him, if you notice anything amiss, don't hesitate and give up on it immediately. Otherwise it would be too late for regrets if you're burdened by it and sapped dry completely. Thank you for your reminder, Senior. Su Zimo expressed his gratitude while his mind was filled with the legends about the immortal world. Chapter 790 New Journey. Chapter 790, New Journey. Zimo, there are some soul-nourishing blood ginsengs in this storage bag. Keep them with you. Perfected Lord Yujun handed Su Zimo a storage bag, and Su Zimo did not decline. All the cultivators on the phenomenon ranking received rewards like the soul-nourishing blood ginseng. The higher their ranking, the more the quantity they received. Mingzhen's storage bag already contained thousands of soul-nourishing blood ginseng. If nothing went wrong, that large amount of soul-nourishing blood ginseng would suffice Mingzhen until he cultivated to the void reversion realm. This was also one of the reasons why many paragons wanted to obtain a ranking on the phenomenon ranking. The rewards were truly enticing. Su Zimo opened his storage bag and gave it a quick glance. He could not help but feel stunned with a look of surprise in his eyes. There were way too many soul-nourishing blood ginsengs in his storage bag. At one glance, there were at least 60,000 ginsengs densely packed together. Su Zimo furrowed his brows slightly. Although the rewards for the number one of the phenomenon ranking were immense, there was no way it could be this much. This? Su Zimo looked at Perfected Lord Yujun. Just as he was about to speak, the latter's voice sounded in his mind. There's no need to decline, Zimo. You deserve the soul-nourishing blood ginsengs. Perfected Lord Yujun sent a voice transmission. If you hadn't stepped in to save the paragons from the catastrophe, few of them would have been able to survive, let alone all of these worldly items. The demon beast friends you have are great and honorable. It's all thanks to their help this time round as well. All of them will require soul-nourishing blood ginsengs for their cultivations too. Their portions are included within the storage bag. Demons would cultivate essence spirits after they form their cores as well. However, for the demon race they refer to it as the Yin spirit. Perfected Lord Yujun continued, furthermore, if you are going to refine the creation green lotus, these soul-nourishing blood ginsengs won't even be enough for you to take in fully. Su Zimo nodded and put away the storage bag. Coupled with the spirit-gathering fruit and other soul-nourishing blood ginseng that he had gathered earlier on, he definitely had enough cultivation resources for a period of time in the future. Perfected Lord Yujun asked, what are your plans after this, Zimo? I haven't thought about it yet. Su Zimo replied ambiguously. He had decided earlier on that he wanted to head to one of the 8 demon regions, but he felt that it was awkward to tell Perfected Lord Yujun about it. Perfected Lord Yujun had a conflicted expression and seemed like he wanted to say something but stopped. In truth, in the depths of his heart, he wanted to invite Su Zimo to Enigma Palace. However, Su Zimo's identity was way too unique. Although he held the fort for the Battle of Myriad Phenomenon City and rescued many paragons to leave an eternal reputation, his identity would be questioned forever as well. The image of the gigantic 100-foot-tall ancient demon king with a torrential ferocity was etched deeply in the hearts of many cultivators and impossible to erase. The dragon roar he released and the humanoid monster that was filled with green scales was also remembered by everyone. Everything would surely spread through the entire cultivation world when the cultivators who survived returned to Tianhuang mainland. The words of men were enough to destroy bones. How many people would believe it even if he told them that Su Zimo was human? At the end of the day, Perfected Lord Yujun was only a Perfected Lord at Enigma Palace, and he could not make the decision to invite Su Zimo to join Enigma Palace. Rather, there was probably no faction in the cultivation world that would dare to be on Su Zimo's side. That lad was in possession of great treasures. That lad has offended super sects such as Glass Palace and Zephyr Thunder Palace. From this day forth, this young man's situation in the cultivation world would become even more treacherous. Perfected Lord Yujun gazed at the top of Myriad Phenomenon Peak with a deep look in his eyes as he lamented, "If you're able to reach the peak one day, everything will definitely change." Naturally, Monkey and Lu could see the situation Suzimo was in. He sent the latter a voice transmission in secret with only 2 words, Demon Region. He could only avoid the dangers of the cultivation world temporarily within the demon regions. That was the most suitable path for Suzimo for the time being. Suzimo merely nodded without any emotions. Many cultivators gradually dispersed after the dissemination of the rewards. Most sects and factions would choose to reside in Myriad Phenomenon City and wait for the dimensional spots of the ancient battlefield to open up again 3 months later so that they can return to Tianhuang mainland. Suzimo, Monkey and the others had already planned to take their leave first. Suzimo went to visit Demoness Ji and handed her the Great Qian Imperial Seal. "Help me take this back and give it to Yaoshue." The Great Qian Imperial Seal was not only a Khanate spirit weapon. There was an even deeper meaning behind it. Suzimo had already intended to hand it over to Yaoshue the moment he got his hands on it. Nothing else. That's all. A fragrance wafted over. Demoness Ji closed into Suzimo with an unfriendly expression and grit her teeth. "Don't you have anything for me?" Suzimo gave a bitter laugh. He truly had nothing. He knew that he was in the wrong and turned to leave, disappearing in a flash. "Coward, you're afraid I might eat you up?" Demoness Ji stomped her foot and harumphed. "Xiaoning, follow your sect back to Elixir Yang sect. I'll take my leave first. I'll visit you if I have the chance." Suzimo went to visit Xiaoning for a final farewell. "Yes." She nodded with a slumped head as though she had something on her mind. "What's wrong?" Suzimo asked. "I want to pay my respects to Big Brother," Xiaoning said after a moment of silence. Suzimo wanted to reject her almost immediately. However, when he saw the sorrow in Xiaoning's eyes, he realized that this secular relationship would always be in her heart if it was not resolved. He was in the same state previously. However, it was truly way too dangerous for Xiaoning to head to the North region alone. Suzimo was extremely worried. Yet, things would most likely be even more dangerous if he followed her. "I'll accompany her." Right then, Night Spirit's voice sounded. His tone was calm, as though he was saying something extremely casual. Suzimo was relieved. He believed that Xiaoning would definitely be fine if she was accompanied by Night Spirit. However, the 7 of them had only just become sworn siblings and they were about to be separated after their short gathering. Everyone felt reluctant about it. "I can't follow you guys either." Right then, the Golden Lion said softly in an embarrassed manner. "Ah." The Spirit Tiger squatted down and asked, "Where are you going to go?" "Don't worry, I won't bully you in the future or call you Golden Hair or anything like that. I'll call you 7, how about that?" "No." The Golden Lion looked even more nervous and waved it off hurriedly. "I've got a friend, yes friend back in the Wild Lion Ridge. I've got to return to see her. I can't leave without a farewell." "Friend?" The Spirit Tiger's eyes lit up. Monkey teased him, "It's your lover, right?" "Ha." The Golden Lion scratched his head with a chuckle, but he did not deny. Initially, the Spirit Tiger, Ching Ching and the others were feeling sad because they had to part with Night Spirit. All of a sudden, their eyes blazed with the flames of gossip when they heard about this. "Hurry, tell me. What's up between you two? What's the name of your lover? Is she pretty? How long have you guys been together? Why have I never heard you mention her?" A series of questions flew over and the Golden Lion blushed bright red. In fact, he even looked embarrassed as he said, "Pretty? Of course she's pretty." After a momentary pause, he mustered his courage. "Her name is Cuckoo and there's no one else in this world that's better than her in my eyes." "Who?" Monkey and the others cheered with wild laughter. Suzimo stood at the side and smiled in silence with a sense of warmth in his heart as he looked at Monkey and the others play around. He was about to begin on a new journey. Thankfully, he wasn't going to be doing it alone. Chapter 791 World of the Demon Race. Chapter 791 World of the Demon Race. Suzimo's group separated with Night Spirit and the Golden Lion upon leaving Myriad Phenomenon City. Su Zimo, Monkey, the Spirit Tiger, Ching Ching and Little Fox began on their new journey. There were 8 demon regions and they were also ranked among the super factions of Tianhuang mainland. That was the reason why there was the saying of the 9 immortal sects and 8 demon regions. However, of the 8 demon regions, 3 of them were not on land and were out in the oceans. Tianhuang mainland consisted of 4 regions, 3 oceans and 1 continent. The 4 regions were the north, south, east and west regions. The continent referred to the middle continent. The 3 oceans surrounded Tianhuang mainland from the east, south and north directions. The oceanic world was vast and was multiple times larger than the surface area of the land. There were countless unheard of ancient living beings and primordial living beings even existed in the depths of the oceans. They had yet to cultivate essence spirits at their current cultivation realm. Even if they could enter the oceans, they wouldn't be able to adapt. The 5 of them were considered as living beings of the land. Even after they advanced to the nascent soul realm and cultivated their essence spirits, their combat strength would definitely be diminished significantly in the depths of the oceans. Those 3 demon regions had to be eliminated for the time being. Among the 5 of them, Su Zimo was probably the only one who wouldn't be affected in the depths of the oceans. Before they entered the astral dragon sputum lair, the group of them dove into the bottom of the lake and engaged in a massive battle there. Su Zimo's combat strength did not seem to be affected even in deep waters. At that time he was puzzled over the reason. During his recent rest period in Myriad Phenomenon City, he recalled about these incidents and an extremely frightening guess gradually surfaced within Su Zimo's mind. His illumination I was imparted to him at the bottom of the Dragon Burial Valley by the red-headed ghost. However, when the God race leader saw the visual technique, he referred to it as the Illumination Dragon Eye and said that it was a secret skill of the dragon race. When he asked the red-headed ghost at the bottom of the Dragon Burial Valley for the name of this visual technique, the latter had an odd expression and was ambiguous. Su Zimo was more inclined to believe in the God race leader's words. However, that was the issue. How did he manage to cultivate a secret skill of the dragon race? There was also the issue of the ancient dragonification art. When he released it previously, there would merely be a lifelike divine dragon conjured around him. But this time round, his body underwent a terrifying change. Back at the bottom of the Dragon Burial Valley when Su Zimo underwent his demonic cultivation, he had similar experiences. His skin would feel itchy as though something was about to burst forth from it. However, upon closer inspection, he discovered nothing. At that time he paid no attention to it. To think that dragon scales would appear on his body directly this time round. Was it merely because of the half-dragon egg that he consumed back in the Dragon Bone Valley? Su Zimo did not believe that. If the half-dragon egg was the reason, why did he not have the same terrifying transformation when he released the ancient dragonification art before he entered the bottom of the Dragon Burial Valley? If it was not because of the half-dragon egg, what was the reason for it? A series of images flashed through Su Zimo's mind. He thought about the red-headed ghost. He thought about the bowl of spirit water that the red-headed ghost offered him every month. That spirit water? Su Zimo's eyes narrowed and his gaze shone. Nobody was clearer than him about the tremendous power within the spirit water. That bowl of spirit water every month was the reason why he could cultivate the mystic classic of the 12 demon kings of the great wilderness at the bottom of the Dragon Burial Valley and heal his inner core back to its original state. Now that he thought about it carefully, that was probably not spirit water but blood. The blood of the dragon race. The only reason why his body underwent such a tremendous change such that he could transform partially into a dragon was because he drank the blood of the dragon race for 20 years. The bloodline of the dragon race was probably the reason why his smashed inner core could heal to its original state. It was because he contained the bloodline of the dragon race within him that he was able to cultivate a secret skill of the dragon race, the Illumination Dragon Eye. It was because of the bloodline of the dragon race that his combat strength was not affected underwater. Dragons were used to flying through clouds and water to begin with. Even if they were in the depths of the oceans they could create a stir, let alone the depths of a lake. With that, the identity of the red-headed ghost became even more mysterious. Could the red-headed ghost be someone from the dragon race? A bold thought crossed Su Zimo's mind that even gave himself a shock. What was the background of a chained dragon in the backyard at the bottom of the Dragon Burial Valley? Su Zimo could not help but recall the catastrophe from 10,000 years ago. However, there were many things that would not make sense even if the red-headed ghost was the dragon of the catastrophe. What are you thinking about, young master? Little Fox closed in when she saw Su Zimo frowning in deep thoughts and could not help but ask. It's nothing. Su Zimo shook his head and suppressed the thoughts momentarily. Unless he asked the old monk and the red-headed ghost personally, any conclusion he came to would merely be a fragment of his imagination. After the 3 oceanic demon regions were eliminated, the North region was eliminated as well. Apart from the threat of Glass Palace, Su Zimo was worried about the Dragon Bone Valley. The Dragon Bone Valley was one of the 9 forbidden grounds. There was a chance that the existences within the Dragon Bone Valley might create trouble for him if he released the bloodline of the dragon race from within his body. There were not many choices left after the North region was eliminated. There were only the demon regions of the South, East and West regions as well as the Middle Continent. No matter which demon region we're in, we should lay low the moment we arrive and not attract any trouble. In a rare expression of seriousness, the spirit tiger's usual cheeky behavior was gone. Beasts and birds roam the demon regions and it is filled with danger. At our level we're among the lowest tiers among them. We can only protect ourselves after we cultivate our Yin spirit and advance to become low-level fiend demons. The low-level fiend demon that the spirit tiger referred to was the equivalent of a nascent soul in the cultivation world. Even a low-level fiend demon could reign supreme in a place like the Tsanglang mountain range. However, within the 8 demon regions, they could only barely ensure their own survival. Are there any factions within the demon regions as well? Qing asked. Among the 5 of them, Monkey and the Spirit Tiger were the only ones who had lived in the demon regions before and understood more about them. The Spirit Tiger jolted at Qing's question and said hurriedly, there are multiple factions within the demon regions and it's survival of the fittest with a strict hierarchy of levels. If you can cultivate to become a mid-level fiend demon, you can gather some lesser demons and reign as a king. Monkey's eyes lit up at the mention of reign as a king, and licked his lips. He seemed to possess a fervent obsession towards being a king. Mid-level fiend demons possess a territory of their own and have many lesser and low-level fiend demons under their control. They are known as territorial lords. Mid-level fiend demons were equivalent to void reversions of the cultivation world. The Spirit Tiger continued, if you become a high-level fiend demon you'll be amazing. Every single high-level fiend demon within the demon regions are overlords. All the territorial lords within their jurisdiction have to obey their orders unquestionably. High-level fiend demons were equivalent to the Dharma characteristics of the cultivation world. At that point, be it Monkey or the Spirit Tiger, their eyes revealed hopeful looks. How glorious would it be if they became overlords within the demon regions and could command groups of demons? Su Zimo asked, if the mid-level fiend demons are territorial lords and the high-level fiend demons are overlords, what comes after that? Grand demons are above high-level fiend demons. They are equivalent to the conjoint bodies of the conjoint body. Although they don't belong to any factions or possess any territories, all grand demons are completely unrestricted and can roam the demon regions freely. The spirit demon said enviously, even an overlord has to bow in the face of a grand demon and listen to its orders obediently. Chapter 792 Rat. Chapter 792, Rat. The ancient battlefield was about to be shut off in another 3 months. During this period of time, Su Zimo, Monkey and the others roamed the battlefield freely and collected as many soul-nourishing blood ginsengs as they could. The 5 of them were at the peak of their core formations and would require soul-nourishing blood ginseng to raise their cultivation realm and refine their essence spirits after advancing to the nascent soul realm. For something like the soul-nourishing blood ginseng, it was definitely the more the merrier. The term nascent soul referred to how the essence spirit resembled an infant. How was an essence spirit cultivated? Ancient sayings mentioned that one could see spirits after they broke through the voids. That spirit referred to the essence spirit. In that case, what were the voids? How should one break through the voids? The essence spirit resided in a mysterious region within the brain in the depths of the glabella. It was known as the Naiwan Palace or the Spirit Platform. This was a secret place that the human body could not come into contact with. It was said that a living being's soul was contained within. Prior to this, cultivators had difficulties coming into contact with the Spirit Platform no matter how they tried to cultivate. There was a barrier between the human body and the Spirit Platform. That barrier was what the void referred to. To break through the void was to break through the barrier. At the peak of core formation when the power of one's core was at its limits, A cultivator could attempt to break the barrier by controlling their will. If they could break the barrier, they would arrive at where the spirit platform was. A living being's soul was incorporeal. It was merely an empty ball of light. After the void was broken through and the golden core arrived at the spirit platform, resplendent light will fill the place and turn it pure white. Upon contact, the soul will form something corporeal like a newborn infant. That was the nascent soul. It was also the essence spirit. The human body was extremely mysterious and was a world of its own. The process of using the golden core to break through the void was the process of communicating with the universe. That was the reason why cultivators could utilize heaven and earth powers after cultivating an essence spirit, making use of dermic powers that were even more terrifying and stronger than spirit energy. However, Suzimo's situation was different from others. He did not only have a golden core within his body, he had an inner core as well. Nobody knew what changes would happen if he broke through given those circumstances. For 3 months, the 5 of them encountered a lot of battles of various intensities. Some ignorant ferocious beasts and ancient living beings attempted to gang up on them and steal their treasures, seeing that there were only 5 of them, but ended up being defeated themselves. There was nothing within this world that could threaten the 5 of them anymore. This day, Suzimo's group of 5 defeated another beast stampede and started to tidy up their spoils of war in the battlefield. Right now, there were already more than 80,000 soul-nourishing blood ginsengs in Suzimo's storage bag. I'd say we shouldn't continue and search painstakingly for the soul-nourishing blood ginsengs. The spirit tiger said as he collected the storage bags on the battlefield. We should just rob them. Given our capabilities, we'll be able to rob tons of them. That sounds feasible. Ching said hostilely as well. There's been demon beasts that tried to take advantage of us for the past few days. We might as well take the initiative and rob them instead. Suzimo was silent and gazed at a small hill not far away fixedly. Young master, what are you looking at? Little Fox was curious and looked where Suzimo was looking, but she saw nothing. A cowardly rat has been following us for a few days now. However, he hasn't done anything. Suzimo said with a fake smile, I'm just curious what he's up to. Huh? Where? Little Fox asked with widened eyes. Suzimo raised his head slightly and chuckled. Hiding right beneath that small hill. Monkey, the spirit tiger, and Ching's gazes turned over as well. They moved and gradually formed an encirclement, glaring with cold gazes and hostile expressions. According to Suzimo's words, this person has followed them for a couple of days, yet the few of them did not realize anything at all. This meant that the intruder was rather capable. In truth, Suzimo was curious as well. The person following them was extremely careful and had gentle movements that were almost impossible to detect. Suzimo cultivated the mystic classic of the 12 demon kings of the great wilderness, and the blood of the dragon race flowed through his body. As such, his 6 senses were frighteningly keen. If not for that, it would have been difficult to notice this person's presence. More importantly, his spirit perception did not give him any warning. In other words, the person that followed them was not hostile. That was also the reason why Suzimo did not make a move and kill the intruder instantly. However, that person did not give up even after a few days and continued following them. That irritated Suzimo slightly. Coward, who are you? Come forth. The spirit tiger glared at the hill not far away and shouted domineeringly. To be fair, even as the 3 of them glared at the hill, none of them noticed that somebody was hiding there. However, a moment later the small hill moved. The ground gradually caved in and a hole the size of a face opened up where it was. Immediately after, a gray demon beast scurried out of the hole. Everyone focused their gazes and were stunned. Little Fox murmured with her mouth agape, it's really a rat. Suzimo was slightly stunned as well before he lost his composure and laughed. The demon was around the size of a guinea pig and was filled with short, gray fur all over its body. It had a long tail and its tiny eyes darted around with a shifty expression. It was truly a gigantic rat. Fellow brothers, please don't get worked up. I'm your good friend, the rat spoke in human tongue. Stop acting chummy with me. Rat, what are you doing following us? When the spirit tiger saw that it was a rat, he felt that he could slap the latter to death with a single palm strike. As such, he was invigorated and shouted again. The rat was so shocked that it shuddered. Please calm down, great tiger. The rat cupped his tiny paws together and greeted Monkey, the spirit tiger, and Ching politely as it beamed embarrassedly and spoke in human tongue. Previously, by coincidence, I came across you guys fighting and was extremely amazed. The unparalleled brilliance is something that I look up to and can't forget. Monkey and Ching Ching did not have many reactions when they heard that. However, the spirit tiger was extremely proud and blushed with bright spirits. Rat, you sure are right about that. The spirit tiger nodded and asked, when you mentioned unparalleled brilliance, which one of us were you referring to? The rat replied hurriedly, you, the great tiger, of course. You were incomparably brave and an invincible might. Your torrential aura can sweep through the 8 desolates unmatched. The spirit tiger was delighted but pretended to be calm as he said deeply, yes, you're quite the sharp person. Wow. Ching Ching and Little Fox could take it no longer as they rolled their eyes and retched. After one whole day, you've yet to tell us what you're doing following us. Monkey sneered and kicked the rat without exerting much strength. The rat's eyes flickered. Brothers, the main reason why I'm following you guys is because I can't forget about your brilliance. If you don't start getting honest, I'm going to cut off your head and hang it on my waist so that you can follow me forever. How about that? Monkey smirked. The rat shuddered and behaved himself before smiling embarrassedly. I wish to invite you guys to head to my territory. I believe you'll be able to dominate the place with your capabilities. Su Zimo's heart stirred and he asked, where is your territory? In the middle continent, the 1,000-Demon Valley. The rat replied. Chapter 793 3 Fiend Demons. Chapter 793 3 Fiend Demons. Monkey, the spirit tiger and Ching Ching turned towards Su Zimo for a decision. Su Zimo asked without any emotions, you're only a spirit demon, how do you have a territory? Of course, the territory isn't mine. The rat explained hurriedly, the territory I belong to is the Howling Moon Mountain and the territorial lord is a wolf king who is extremely gracious. Given your capabilities, I'm sure you'll be highly regarded if you join our Howling Moon Mountain. Su Zimo remained silent. The rat was unnerved and its eyeballs fluttered around, stealing glances at this refined green-robed man. After following them for a few days, it could naturally tell that the green-robed man was the leader of the group. Although the monkey and tiger were ferocious, the rat felt that this green-robed man was even more frightening and unfathomable. The rat's combat strength was ordinary but it was capable. Otherwise, it would not have been sent into the ancient battlefield. Its greatest capability was moving in stealth. As long as it was careful in the 1,000-Demon Valley, even low-level fiend demons would be hard-pressed to detect its presence. However, this green-robed man discovered him instantly and he had nowhere to hide. What was even more frightening was that even after a few days of observation, the rat discovered that it could not read this man at all. Or rather, it did not know whether this was a human or a demon. All right. Just as the rat was about to sweat, Su Zimo nodded slowly and agreed to it. If they wanted to leave the ancient battlefield and head to a demon region, they had to locate its corresponding teleportation point. Without help from anyone, the search for the teleportation points would be akin to searching for a needle in a haystack for the 5 of them. There was no guarantee that they could locate the right one. The 5 of them had yet to settle on the demon region they wanted to head to. Right now, this was an opportunity. They could save quite a bit of trouble if they followed this rat to the 1,000-Demon Valley. The 1,000-Demon Valley was located in the Middle Continent. The Middle Continent could be considered as the most flourished region of the Cultivation civilization. Most of the super sects, Elixir Yang sect, Thousand Crane sect and Tomb sect included, were located in the Middle Continent. If Su Zimo wanted to leave the demon region and visit Xiaoning, Little Fatty and other old friends in the future, it would be more convenient as well. It did not matter whether or not they were going to join the Howling Moon Mountain. The most important thing for the 5 of them was to head to a secluded and quiet place for them to break through from the core formation realm upon reaching the demon region. The deadline of the year was almost up. A few figures darted past a secluded cave. Right at the front was a gigantic rat. Behind it were 5 figures. Your teleportation point is way too secretive. The voice of the spirit tiger sounded. Su Zimo and the other 4 followed the rat into the cave through twists and turns like a maze. Finally they arrived at the end after a full hour. A vortex filled with demonic chi shone darkly in the voids at the front. Brothers, follow me. The rat gestured with his hand and leaped in, vanishing in the blink of an eye. Little Fox was a little nervous. They were about to head into an extremely foreign environment. She would have been flustered long ago if Su Zimo was not by her side. Don't be afraid. Su Zimo held Little Fox's wrist gently and exchanged glances with Monkey and the rest before leaping into the vortex. When their figures vanished, the vortex paused for a brief moment before dispersing, returning the voids to its usual quietness. The world spun. The group of them felt as though they were traveling through a dark tunnel. They could not control their bodies and there was no sense of direction or flow of time. It was an extremely terrible sensation and their chests felt stuffy. Little Fox could not see anything around her but she could feel a warm hand gripping her wrist tightly without relenting. Gradually she calmed down. An unknown period of time passed. The suffocating sensation vanished and the smell of fresh flora surged into their noses. A figure fell rapidly amidst a forest of trees. Ouch! It was a tragic cry. A large pit appeared on the ground. The rat was sprawled on the ground and its bones and tendons felt like snapping after the massive fall. Ha 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 ha. A series of mocking laughter sounded. Dumb as a pig. If you're not dead, get the hell up. A voice sounded and chided. The rat shuddered at the sound of that voice. Although it cursed internally, it forced out a slight smile and struggled to stand up, turning towards the voice. Immediately after, a few figures fell rapidly. Bang, bang, bang. There were a few loud explosions. Grass and mud splashed everywhere as Su Zimo, Monkey and the others rose calmly. The few of them were able to stabilize themselves before reaching the ground with their mighty physiques and frightening combat talent. Su Zimo shifted his gaze without any emotions. He was already scanning his environment before he landed. This was an extremely ancient forest that was dark and sinister. The ancient trees at the side towered into the clouds and were even thicker than the ancient trees back in Songlang mountain range. Green vines the thickness of one's arms snaked around their trunks like pythons in a frightening manner. There were at least 100 demon beasts in this forest. Most of them were spirit demons at the Golden Core realm. However, among them, 3 demon beasts had an extremely frightening aura that went beyond a spirit demons. There should be 3 fiend demons in the vicinity. 3 mighty figures walked over from the front. All of them were dozens of feet tall and had frightening auras. The figures on the left and right were gigantic and muscular. The figure on the left had a bared chest that was filled with black hair. With a humanoid figure and the head of a bear, it was a black bear that cultivated into a demon. The figure on the right was hairless but it had rough skin and bulging muscles that resembled rocks. There was even a gigantic horn on its head. It was a bull that had cultivated into a demon. The figure in the middle was slightly skinnier with hands behind its back. It had a humanoid figure with the head of a goat and a pair of slightly curved goat horns. With a frown and a dark gaze, there was a small goatee on its chin. It was a goat spirit that cultivated the Tao and became a fiend demon. The 3 of them advanced and exclaimed softly when they caught sight of Su Zimo's group. Ah, I'm being received personally by the 3 great leaders under the Howling Moon Territorial Lord. This is an honor of a lifetime for me. The rat rolled and stood up before scurrying to the 3 fiend demons with a pandering expression. Yes. The 3 of them nodded. The goat demon glared at Su Zimo's group with slightly raised brows and asked coldly, "Who are they?" He was already displeased when he saw Su Zimo and the other 4 standing with their chests puffed with calm expressions instead of heading over to greet him. The hierarchy of the demon race was strict. Spirit demons had to bow down in the face of fiend demons. The rat was already alarmed when he sensed the displeasure from the goat demon and the other 2. However, he could not voice it out directly so he winked hurriedly towards Su Zimo and the others. When he heard the words of the goat demon, the rat's heart skipped a beat and he replied hurriedly, "Sir, I came across them when I was in the ancient battlefield and decided to invite them back to join the Howling Moon Mountain because they are rather capable. They should be feeling nervous because they've just arrived. The reason why they haven't greeted the 3 of you must be because they are stricken by how awesome you are." The rat added hurriedly before casting glances towards Su Zimo and the others. Chapter 794, Don't Know What's Good. Chapter 794, Don't Know What's Good. Su Zimo knew that the rat was looking out for them. After a momentary silence, Su Zimo raised his chin slightly with cupped fists and said, "The 5 of us are sworn siblings from the North region. Greetings, 3 sirs." He was neither overbearing nor servile. Who was Su Zimo? He was the number 1 of the Golden Core phenomenon ranking. He was the 2nd human emperor and the strongest monster incarnate in history. This was someone who killed the beings of the primordial 9 races in Myriad Phenomenon City and had the blood of a dragon flowing within his body. Although the 3 of them were fiend demons, they were only low-level fiend demons and were equivalent to the nascent souls of human cultivators. They were nothing much to Suzumo. He was already showing immense respect with his willingness to greet with cupped fists on their first meeting. What he was truly wary about was the Howling Moon territorial lord behind the 3 of them. One had to be a mid-level fiend demon in order to be a territorial lord, and that was equivalent to a void reversion. That was 2 major cultivation realms above Suzumo. Furthermore, they were foreign to the Thousand Demon Valley. There was no need for them to get into conflict with any faction upon their immediate arrival. The most important thing for the 5 of them was to settle down and get familiarized with their surroundings. Thereafter, they had to seek out a safe, secluded location to attempt their breakthroughs. Monkey raised his brow slightly when he saw Suzumo speak. He followed suit and cupped his fist symbolically without saying anything. He had a proud nature, but there was nothing much to greeting someone. However, there was definitely no way he could pander the same way the rat did. The 5 of them followed Suzumo's lead. The spirit tiger and Ching Ching exchanged glances and greeted in the same manner. Umph. The bear demon gave an odd laugh and glared at Suzumo coolly. You sure are cocky. Interesting. The bull demon glared at the rat and sneered, don't these puny demons you found know any rules? Although the bull demon was smiling, his eyes were filled with pure coldness. The goat demon was expressionless and glared at Suzumo for a long time. His brows were knitted subtly and only unfurled after it seemed as though he could not make out anything. The rat wiped away his sweat in secret and said, 3 sirs, please don't be angered. The few of them don't know the rules because they've just arrived. They will definitely be better in the future. Monkey's lips twitched as he sneered internally. What's there to be cocky about? Once I break through from the core formation realm and become a fiend demon, anyone of your level will be bashed to death by my rod one after another. The rat continued, 3 sirs, don't worry, the 5 of them are not weak. They will definitely become capable subjects for the Howling Moon territorial lord in the future. A monkey, a tiger and an immortal crane. The goat demon muttered and his cold gaze moved slowly and was fixed on Suzumo. What's your true form? Be it monkey or the spirit tiger, although they were in human form, it was incomplete and they bore signs of their true forms. However, Suzumo looked like a human through and through. If not for the fact that he could not sense any aura of an essence spirit from Suzumo, the goat demon would have thought that the green-robed man was a fiend demon. Suzumo frowned. Although he emanated demonic chi, he was not a demon to begin with. How could he have a true form? He might be able to get through saying that he was half a dragon, but would the 3 people before him believe his words? Right then, the goat demon's eyes sharpened as he glared behind Suzumo before hollering, that woman, stand forth. The expressions of Monkey, the spirit tiger and everyone else darkened immediately. A frail figure slowly appeared. It was none other than Little Fox, who was hiding behind Suzumo in silence. Little Fox looked flustered. However, she had been through bloodshed in the ancient battlefield after all and had turned much more courageous. She composed herself and greeted the 3 fiend demons politely before saying in a soft voice, greeting, 3 sirs. Little Fox was way too beautiful. Her body was curvy and innately bewitching. Charm was exuded from head to toe of her body. Even without releasing the bewitchment techniques of the fox race, most people would feel frustrated and worked up at the mere sight of Little Fox. This lass is decent. The black bear demon smacked his lips and smirked. The bull demon pouted his lips. It's a pity that her frame is too small and frail. She can't take any roughness at all. The black bear demon nodded in agreement. The goat demon sized Little Fox up brazenly and suddenly asked, Fox race? Little Fox had transformed into a human completely and there were no flaws in her outer appearance, yet the goat demon was able to see through her true form instantly. A flustered look flashed through Little Fox's eyes and vanished instantly. She shook her head and forced a smile. Sir, you must be joking. I'm not from the fox race. Little Fox's lie was way too obvious to the goat demon. Foo-foo. This was the first time that a smile appeared on the goat demon's face. His skinny face that was originally filled with wrinkles crumpled even further and he looked somewhat frightening. You'll follow me from this day forth. He pointed to Little Fox and said in a commanding tone that was unquestionable. A hint of scarlet gradually appeared in Monkey's eyes. The spirit tiger's hair stood on end. Ching Ching's expression was cold and she was prepared to revert to her true form and fight at any moment. It did not matter much to Monkey and the others whether they had to join Howling Moon or greet the three fiend demons. However, Little Fox was their bottom line. Nobody was allowed to harbor designs on Little Fox. Nobody noticed that Suzumo's head was slightly lowered the moment the goat demon's sights were locked onto Little Fox. Suzumo's gaze was cold and filled with immense killing intent. Instantly, the atmosphere within the forest tensed up and was murderous. The bull demon glared at Monkey and the others and chided, "What are you doing? Do you have a death wish?" The black bear demon cracked his neck and rubbed his gigantic bear paws together, chuckling coldly. "It's been a long time since I've killed to my fill." More than 100 golden core spirit demons gradually gathered around from the forest. They had hostile expressions and bared their fangs and claws. "Everyone calm down. Calm down." The rat was flustered and made eyes at Suzumo's group constantly. The three sirs have served the Howling Moon Territorial Lord for many years. It isn't a bad thing following them. The rat placed emphasis on the words, Howling Moon Territorial Lord. He was reminding them out of goodwill. However, he truly had not realized how important Little Fox was to Suzumo and the others. Even if it was an overlord that wanted to lay his hands on Little Fox, Suzumo and the others would fight with their lives on the line, let alone a territorial lord. The goat demon glanced at the flustered rat by the side and asked coldly, "These puny demons don't know what's good for them. Are you on their side?" "Aye." The rat was so frightened that he shirked his neck and lost his courage. The situation before them was truly not as he had expected. The rat had truly invited Suzumo and the other four to Howling Moon Mountain because he thought highly of their capabilities. To think that things would develop as such the moment they arrived here. He glanced at Suzumo and the others before standing behind the three fiend demons, obediently and slightly ashamed. It was not a difficult choice to make. A glance was enough to see which was the stronger side. "So, there are truly people who don't know what's good for them." Suzumo sighed gently. Before his sigh ended, he struck without any warning. Chapter 795 Killing Fiend Demons. Chapter 795, Killing Fiend Demons. A moment earlier this was a frail scholar with a lowered head. The next moment he became an ancient demon that was decisive to kill. Suzumo was unfamiliar with this forest and knew nothing about it. However, the same could be said for the living beings of the forest towards him. The three fiend demons did not know what sort of an existence this seemingly frail scholar was. The moment Suzumo moved, the three fiend demons were slightly stunned with a single thought in their minds. How dare he? A spirit demon at Golden Core Realm dared to take the initiative against three fiend demons. They were shocked before their thoughts were finished. Suzumo had already closed in on them. They were less than 100 feet apart and he arrived instantly. It was too fast. A suffocating pressure surged forward and Suzumo's figure pushed into the embrace of the black bear. He leaned in and exerted strength. Bang. A dull sound of flesh clashing could be heard. The black bear demon's eyes widened in fear and he was sent flying viciously by Suzumo before he could even land a palm strike. The jarring sound of bones cracking could be heard from within his massive body. The chest of the black bear demon was caved in deeply. A fiend demon was almost smashed apart by Suzumo. Demons were innately strong with sharp fangs and claws and specialized in tempering their bodies. As fiend demons, they could undergo inertia and consume the essence of day and night to refine their bodies without tempering their flesh directly. A body that was refined from the essence of day and night was even stronger. That was the single greatest difference between low-level fiend demons and spirit demons. In the demon world, it was almost impossible for spirit demons to threaten fiend demons because they were on completely different levels. However, that scene smashed the worldview of many demon beasts. The 100-odd demon beasts that just rushed up paused in their tracks subconsciously, their pupils constricted with looks of disbelief in their eyes. Their leader, the black bear low-level fiend demon, was crippled by that seemingly frail scholar. The rat hid in a corner and his eyes were widened. He was so scared that he nearly bit his tongue off. The gaze of the black bear demon dimmed gradually. The impact of the burst severed the life within his body entirely. Roar! The bull demon at the side snapped out of his stupor and let out a roar. His flesh expanded and his bones transformed. He wanted to revert to his true form and fight Suzumo. However, Suzumo's body crackled at the same time and his body expanded much more. Get the hell back. His voice exploded like thunder as he smashed his heavenly encompassing palm down onto the bull demon's head. The bull demon grunted deeply. His body was more than half transformed when it was suppressed by the heavenly encompassing palm. It was as though there was now an unshakable mountain on his back. Buzz! Buzz! The bull demon's skin was ripped with multiple lines and fresh blood spewed outwards. His skin was ruptured because of the tremendous pressure. Right in front of everyone, the bull demon's body had just expanded when it was forced back by Su Zimo's palm and blood mist spewed from his body. The demon beasts that were charging over merely felt their scalps prickle. Their eyes were no longer filled with disbelief, they were now filled with horror and panic. Kill? Right then, Monkey, the spirit tiger and Ching Ching reverted to their true forms one after another and charged into the crowd after the spirit tiger's roar. The few of them had just gotten out from the ancient battlefield. What sort of people were those that were in the ancient battlefield? Be it human cultivators or demons, they were all the paragons and elites of the Golden Core realm. The few of them dominated through the ancient battlefield overwhelmingly. How could the spirit demons before them be compared to them? They were like tigers in a pack of sheep and created a blood storm. Monkey charged in front of a gigantic elephant with huge strides and extended his palm. He grabbed the trunk of the elephant and exerted godly strength to lift the latter up entirely. There was a boom. The gigantic elephant created a perfect semicircle in midair and was smashed viciously onto the ground. It was dead with its tendons and bones completely snapped. On the other side, the spirit tiger charged towards another tiger demon and bared his fangs and claws with a fierce expression. The two spirit tigers opened their bloody mouths together and were fearsome as they bit one another. However, electric currents flashed through the spirit tiger's body. The tiger demon on the other end shuddered and its blood chi was struck by the sudden power of thunder. It froze in midair, completely numb. The spirit tiger did not slow down and bit the throat of the tiger demon instantly. Flashes of blood appeared. The spirit tiger twisted his head furiously. The throat of the tiger demon was ripped off by him. Chirp! The clear cry of a crane could be heard. Ching Ching spread her wings and circled in midair before coming to a sudden descent. Her sharp talons were outstretched and she grabbed the head of a demon beast. The next moment she soared into the air once more. The scalp of the demon beast was ripped off by Ching Ching's talons. The experience in the ancient battlefield was extremely important for Monkey and the others. Their combat strength increased significantly and each of them were now highly skilled in killing others. Every single attack they made was a clean killing move. Even Little Fox, who seemed gentle on the surface, was not to be trifled with. There was a demon beast that attempted to approach Little Fox earlier on and capture her alive. However, before that demon beast could approach, another demon beast lunged over from the side and sent it flying. Before the second demon beast could stand still, yet another demon beast charged over with sharp claws and fought it to the death. A group of demon beasts with bloodshot eyes surrounded Little Fox. Their minds were completely lost and the entire place was chaotic with them killing one another. Little Fox merely stood on the spot quietly. However, no demon beast could approach her at all. On the other side, the bull demon had a menacing expression and growled deeply. It was struggling to persevere. With a cold gaze, Su Zimo raised his leg and kicked violently. Bang! The body of the bull demon was sent flying by Su Zimo instantly and smashed through a dozen heavenly piercing ancient trees before landing in the mud motionlessly. It was thoroughly dead. The remaining goat demon had just reverted to his true form. He raised his sharp horns and was about to thrust Su Zimo when he had a horrific discovery. The two fiend demons beside him had already fallen. In the blink of an eye, he was the only one left. Escape. There was definitely no way he could escape given the movement technique Su Zimo displayed earlier on. Since he could not escape, the only thing he could do was fight to the death. At that thought, the goat demon raised his sharp horns and thrust violently towards Su Zimo with a lowered head. Su Zimo was motionless. Unknowingly, Su Zimo had already reached out with a pair of gigantic hands and grabbed the goat demon's pair of sharp horns. He looked down with a cold expression and a condescending look in his eyes. He looked like a divine being that was looking at an ant. What are you trying to do? How dare you? The goat demon said sternly, but his voice was trembling. I am a great leader under the Howling Moon Territorial Lord. If you hurt my life, he will definitely skin you alive and burn your bones into ashes. Let me tell you one thing. Su Zimo's voice sounded with a calm tone. I've always been extremely daring. Crack. He exerted strength in both arms and ripped the sharp horns of the goat demon out of its head. The goat demon's brain juices spilled onto the ground, steaming. The head of the goat demon was ruptured and its essence spirit was destroyed on the spot. Chapter 796 Exposed. Chapter 796 Exposed. In the blink of an eye, the 3 fiend demons were dead. A thick blood stench and murderous aura spread through the forest. The remaining demon beasts were already on the verge of defeat after the massacre of Monkey and the spirit tiger. When they saw that, they were scared out of their wits and fled in all directions. Where can you run to? Monkey was high on killing and chased after a demon beast, smashing its head into pulp with a single punch. His eyes were slightly bloodshot and he had an excited expression. With a flash, he charged into the forest and wanted to kill off the rest of the demon beasts. All of a sudden, a figure appeared in a flash and blocked his path forward. Monkey did not hesitate and threw a punch instantly. Bang! The intruder reached out and grabbed Monkey's fist with his palm. He received the full power of the punch directly. Monkey was forced to stop. "It's me." Su Zimo's voice sounded and he let go of Monkey's fist before saying in a low voice, "Don't chase them anymore. Let's get out of here first." Although Su Zimo was decisive to kill and took down the 3 fiend demons right away with his sharp attacks, he had not lost his sanity. This was not the ancient battlefield. The few of them could overwhelm anything in their path in the ancient battlefield. But not here. This was one of the 8 demon regions and was the Howling Moon Mountain of the 1,000 Demon Valley. There were way too many existences here that could threaten them. This was not the Tsonglang Mountain range either. No matter if it was Su Zimo or Monkey, they were extremely familiar with the environment, terrain and surroundings of the Tsonglang Mountain range. However, they knew nothing about this place. It was easy to kill 3 low-level fiend demons, but the troubles that awaited them thereafter could be never-ending. If they continued to chase after the fleeing demon beasts and waste more time, they would be in even greater danger. If they attracted even more fiend demons or even the legendary Howling Moon Territorial Lord, the 5 of them would most certainly be doomed. To be a Territorial Lord, one had to be a mid-level fiend demon. That was equivalent to a void reversion. The power of a void reversion was something that Su Zimo could not go against right now even if he were to release all his trump cards. The most important thing right now was for them to leave this place as soon as possible and seek out a safe, secluded place for the 5 of them to achieve their breakthroughs. If they could cultivate their essence spirits and advance to become fiend demons, they could stabilize their cultivation realms and refine dermic weapons. That would also mean that they would be able to protect themselves. After all, the few of them had benefited quite a bit in the ancient battlefield. There were a total of 9 sections to the mystic classic of the 12 demon kings of the Great Wilderness. The next section was the Yin Spirit section. Right now, he had already cultivated 7 ancient demon kings. If he was not wrong, there was a high chance that another ancient demon king would appear in the Yin Spirit section. Su Zimo looked forward to the sort of cultivation technique in the Yin Spirit as well as which ancient demon king would appear. Monkey panted heavily and the scarlet shade in his eyes faded when he heard Su Zimo's voice. He nodded and replied, "Let's go." Su Zimo beckoned and roughly chose a direction before charging into the forest. Monkey, the spirit tiger, Ching Ching and Little Fox followed close behind. They were extremely foreign to the environment and terrain of this forest. Thankfully, Su Zimo's spirit perception was frightening and his 6 senses were keen, helping them avoid quite a bit of trouble. They traveled for close to 2 hours and found a quiet and slightly secluded cave. Su Zimo entered first and surveyed the place. He ensured that there was no danger before beckoning for Monkey and the others to join him. "Take a rest first and look for an opportunity to prepare for your breakthroughs. I'll go set up some things outside the cave." With that statement, Su Zimo turned to leave. He arrived at the entrance of the cave and thought about the array formations he had learned for the past few years. Su Zimo had not abandoned the Tao of array formations for the past few years. If his comprehension of formations was not deep enough, he would not be able to release the power of his illumination sword formation. Su Zimo's foundation in array formations was built when he was in Ethereal Peak. However, he learned of many high-end secret formations from the Sutra chamber at the bottom of the Dragon Burial Valley. After a momentary silence, Su Zimo began setting up array formations. He did not dare to be careless given that they had just entered the demon regions. The only way they could ensure that nothing went wrong was if he set up some concealment and illusion formations to disguise their location. Spirit chi surged out from Su Zimo's fingertips and converged into a sword that drew out formation patterns on the ground. His process of setting up the formation was not entirely smooth. From time to time, the presence of spirit demons in the vicinity would appear. In order to prevent exposure, Su Zimo would pause each time he sensed the presence of a spirit demon and only continued to set up the formations after the spirit demon left. In less than half a day, news of the death of the 3 fiend demons had already spread everywhere. As time passed by, the number of spirit demons that passed by the area increased. All of them had grim, hostile expressions. It was clear that they were searching for something. Thankfully, none of the spirit demons discovered the existence of the cave. Nighttime. A few different sets of breathings could be heard from within the pitch-black cave. Demonic chi rumbled along with the breathing sounds and spread within the cave, turning richer. Be it the breathing sounds or the thick demonic chi, everything was contained within the cave, isolated through the formations at the cave entrance. At the cave entrance, Su Zimo sat on the ground and gazed backwards. Monkey, the spirit tiger, Ching Ching and Little Fox did not show any signs of breaking through after half a day. All of them were at the peak of the core formation realm and were a single step away from crossing it. However, it was no simple task breaking through from a major cultivation realm such as the core formation realm. One had to compose themselves and gather their chi for a breakthrough as such. From the unknowns, they had to sense a mysterious opportunity for things to work out. It was like an adrenaline rush. If they were obstinate and tried to force a breakthrough without the right opportunity, they would end up being frustrated and result in chi deviation. Su Zimo did not attempt for a breakthrough and merely chose to guard the place. The process of breaking through a major realm was critical and must not be disturbed. They were in a dangerous place. If the 5 of them were to attempt breakthroughs at the same time and met with danger without anybody guarding, they would definitely be severely injured and their cultivation foundations would be destroyed. Slowly, Su Zimo closed his eyes and relaxed his mind. Outside the cave, crickets chirped and frogs croaked. Insects and ants scuttled around. Wings flapped through the air. Although his eyes were not open, Su Zimo was able to visualize the way the birds soared through the air. It was a mysterious sensation. It was peaceful and calm. An unknown period of time passed. All of a sudden, Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat and his eyes jerked open like 2 flashes of lightning that tore through the dark night. Right then, the sounds of the crickets chirping, frogs croaking, birds and beasts had suddenly disappeared. It was like the calm surface of a lake with a rock cast into it. The original tranquility was disturbed. Slowly, Su Zimo rose with a cold expression and his eyes flickered frostily. It was silent outside the cave. However, he knew that there were dangers abound waiting to kill them. How could that be? How could his location be exposed? Su Zimo had many questions in his mind. He was certain that he was not trailed by any spirit demons along the way before they found this place. He was also certain that no spirit demon saw them enter the place. Furthermore, there was a concealment formation outside the cave entrance. How were they discovered this quickly? Chapter 797, 7 Great Protectors. Chapter 797, 7 Great Protectors. Shadows of trees swayed outside the cave, looking particularly sinister under the guise of the night. All of a sudden, a shuffling sound could be heard from the depths of the forest. One after another, green pupils appeared from the darkness, shining with excitement and violence. They approached the cave and one after another, the figures of spirit demons turned clearer. 100, 200. The number of spirit demons was still increasing even after 500. At the front of the group were more than 30 demon beasts that were mounted by human figures. The figures looked no different from human cultivators and they wore various Dao robes as well. There were old men with long white hair, beautiful middle-aged women with revealing outfits, muscular, burly men. There were naturally no human cultivators in this demon region. There was only a single possibility for those human figures to look no different from human cultivators. Fiend demons. More than 30 fiend demons had appeared at the same time. In front of the group of fiend demons, 2 figures possessed extremely powerful auras. Although they were also low-level fiend demons, it was clear that they were superior to the other fiend demons. A soaring leopard and an intermediate tiger. The Howling Moon Territorial Lord had 7 great protectors under him, and they were the 7 strongest low-level fiend demons that slaughtered their way to the positions. The Soaring Leopard and Intermediate Tiger were among the 7 protectors. Although the Goat and the other 2 from earlier were also fiend demons, they were way inferior to the 7 protectors of Howling Moon Mountain in terms of strength or status. Right now, the 2 protectors were here with more than 30 low-level fiend demons and many spirit demons. It was clear how important this matter was to them. The Soaring Leopard and Intermediate Tiger rode on demon beasts and looked down from above, frowning slightly as they swept their gaze across a stone wall not far away. There were a few veins on the stone wall and it did not seem like a cave at all. If the both of them had not received trustworthy information, they would not have seen anything wrong about this place even if they passed through it. All of a sudden, the stone wall shimmered with a series of ripples like a water screen. A figure walked out from within. The person wore green robes and had refined features. He swept his gaze at the army of demons with a calm expression without any fear or panic. Immediately after, 4 more figures appeared. It was Su Zimo's group of 5. Now that the enemy had already located them and was about to corner them, Su Zimo had no intention of leaving things to luck. Rather than hiding and praying in the cave for them not to be found, he'd rather walk out directly. There were only concealment and illusion formations at the cave entrance. If there were sufficient spirit demons charging at it at the same time, the formation could be broken, let alone the power of the fiend demons. Very good. The Soaring Leopard clapped with a smile and nodded. You are self-conscious and smart. As long as you cooperate, you can suffer less. Chi. Monkey pouted his lips and rolled his eyes as he gave a stifled laughter with a disdainful look on his face. The smile on the Soaring Leopard's face froze momentarily. As one of the 7 great protectors of Howling Moon Mountain, he was someone that could command almost everything in this territory. How would a demon beast dare to mock him? A commotion broke out in the demon beast army around them as well. Many spirit demons growled deeply with murderous auras. The Soaring Leopard retracted his smile and his expression turned cold. I won't care about the others for now, but I'm going to take that monkey's life. Tisk tisk. Monkey smirked indifferently. We don't know whose life is going to be taken just yet. Exactly. The spirit tiger sneered as well. I can brag as well. Who are you trying to scare? Little tiger cub, how dare you behave so insolently before me? The intermediate tiger at the side roared all of a sudden and released the unique howl of the tiger race. The forest shook and evil winds gusted as a rampant might rippled everywhere. The lineage of the intermediate tiger's true form was an ancient remnant beast of the tiger race. When he saw that the spirit tiger was only an ordinary tiger, he was filled with disdain and wanted to suppress the spirit tiger using his might of the tiger race and the aura of his bloodline. However, there was no way he could know that the spirit tiger's current bloodline was no longer something that he as an ancient remnant beast could deal with. The spirit tiger had cultivated the Void Thunder Manual back in Ethereal Peak. His bloodline possessed the power of thunder. Back in the Astral Dragon Sputum Lair, the spirit tiger fused with 4 claws of the ancient tiger race and received a blood marrow cleansing with a complete transformation. Even a pure-blooded ferocious beast of the tiger race such as the Lu Wu might not be able to suppress the spirit tiger, let alone an ancient remnant beast. The spirit tiger squinted with a pout. What is a worthless thing like you barking noisily here for? The intermediate tiger was enraged and grit his teeth with a fierce gaze. Little cub, you're nothing but a tiger that has turned sentient. I did not wish to take your life on account of how difficult it must have been for you to cultivate to this point. Yet, you don't know what's good for you? You truly have a death wish. Little cub, listen up. I'm Howling Moon Mountains. The spirit tiger was annoyed with the term little cub, and interrupted before the intermediate tiger could finish speaking. I don't care who your grandmother is. Even if your grandfather is here, I'll look down on him all the same. I wasn't even talking about my grandmother. I am. The intermediate tiger was so furious that his mouth cramped and he almost spat out blood. What's the point of wasting our breath on them? Let's capture them first. The Soaring Leopard had a cold gaze and glared at Monkey who was not far away before waving his hand. The ground shook. Spirit demons surged forward from all directions. More than 30 fiend demons rushed forward as well, and only the 2 protectors, the Soaring Leopard and Intermediate Tiger, stood where they were looking down at the 5 people not far away. To them, Su Zimo's group merely consisted of 5 spirit demons. It was said that they only managed to kill the 3 low-level fiend demons earlier with surprise attacks. There was no way the 5 people before them could defend against the charge of more than 30 low-level fiend demons and an army of spirit demons. They were bound to be defeated instantly. "Stay behind me and we'll kill our way out." Suzumo gave a deep roar all of a sudden. His inner core circulated and scarlet demonic chi surged out of his nose and mouth as crackling sounds could be heard from within his body. Swoosh! Right in front of everyone, Suzumo's body expanded and transformed into the height of 100 feet tall in the blink of an eye. His black hair danced and his eyes were frightening with a torrential ferocity. Ah! What is this? Many spirit demons saw a gigantic shadow rise from ground up and raised their heads instinctively. Instantly, chills ran down their spines and they felt their scalps prickle. The aura that Suzumo gave off after his demonification was way too frightening. Even the group of low-level fiend demons were stricken, let alone the spirit demons present. They gasped and felt like insignificant ants against that massive body. The body seemed like it was rinsed with molten steel and shone with a bronze luster. Its muscles bulged up and felt like they contained an explosive might. This was practically an ancient grand demon that swept through the 8 desolates and could devour heaven and earth. Bang! Boom! Boom! Suzumo's body leaned forward with a stride and his gigantic feet created 2 deep ravines on the ground that seemed like they could split the heavens asunder. The spirit demons before him could not defend against it at all. Some were stomped into meat sludge and others were sent flying through countless ancient trees. The 2 ravines were dyed red with fresh blood. No demon beast could stand in the way of Suzumo's charge forward. Chapter 798 Battle in the Forest. Chapter 798 Battle in the Forest. 2 low-level fiend demons at the front were momentarily stunned and could not dodge in time. They were stomped by Suzumo and their bodies exploded into meat sludge. The demons were shocked. The protectors, the soaring leopard and the intermediate tiger were stunned as well. They no longer underestimated their opponent and carried grim looks on their faces. What was the true form of that person? Even the 2 of them felt shudders in the face of that sort of power. Suzumo led the charge at the front and defended most of the attacks. Monkey, the spirit tiger, Ching Ching and Little Fox followed close behind and fought against many spirit demons that swarmed towards them. There was almost nobody among the spirit demons that could threaten Monkey and the other 3. Not even the pure-blooded ferocious beasts. Die! A cold voice sounded beside Ching Ching's ears. A vulture swooped down at an extremely fast speed and almost descended upon Ching Ching instantly. It reached out with a pair of shimmering talons towards Ching Ching's head. Ching Ching was alarmed. From the aura of the vulture, it was clear that it was a low-level fiend demon. Ching Ching already felt her scalp prickle before the talons of the vulture descended. She did not dare to take it head-on and circulated her inner core with the full burst of her cultivation. She made a sharp turn with her body in midair and dodged the vulture's lethal attack by a hair's breadth. Even so, a tuft of feathers from Ching Ching's body were ripped off and a few drops of fresh blood splattered. Roar! The spirit tiger was furious when he saw that and let out an angry roar. With a leap, he lunged into the air and wanted to drag the vulture down. The vulture flapped its wings with a condescending look and vanished from the spot. At the same time, another low-level fiend demon had already closed in and fought the spirit tiger head-on. The spirit tiger let out a tragic cry and fell from midair, gritting his teeth in pain. Monkey was held back by a fiend demon as well and could not break free immediately. He let out deep growls and his eyes became increasingly bloodshot. The 4 of them could dominate anybody of the spirit demon level. However, it was difficult for them to secure victory against fiend demons. Even for Monkey, who had the strongest combat strength among them, it was difficult for him to gain the advantage in a fight against fiend demons without entering the berserk state. A low-level fiend demon glared at the spirit tiger and frowned. Although the spirit tiger fell onto the ground in a wretched manner, he managed to struggle and stand up after a few miserable cries. The fiend demon was unable to kill the spirit tiger on the spot even with its strength. The spirit tiger grit his teeth and gasped. He was secretly alarmed and felt pain all over his body as though his bones and tendons were about to snap. If he had not fused with that 4 unknown tiger claws back in the astral dragon sputum lair, he would have been severely injured or even dead from that single attack. Little Fox used her bewitchment techniques of the fox race and charmed the spirit demons. However, they did not have much of an effect for fiend demons who had cultivated essence spirits. Qing was in an increasingly dangerous situation. The pressure on the four of them was mounting in the chaotic battle. All of a sudden, a gigantic palm appeared from midair and blanketed the skies with a terrifying aura as it crushed down. The vulture looked at Qing, who was not far away, with mocking eyes. Right when it was about to strike again, its vision blackened. An evil gust of wind howled. A gigantic palm descended and it was too late for the vulture to dodge. A blood mist spewed out. The vulture was caught in the palm and squeezed to death. Su Zimo threw away the remaining bloodstains on his palm with a cold expression. He opened his mouth and released an earth-shaking roar to the front. Roar! A massive air current surged out. Green veins popped out on Su Zimo's neck like slithering snakes in a frightening manner. The ancient trees in the vicinity shook. Smaller branches were shattered immediately from that howl. Leaves scattered and turned into dust before they even reached the ground. The spirit demons closest to Su Zimo were rooted on the spot with blank expressions. Blood oozed from their noses and mouth as they fell one after another. The eyes of the spirit demons were dim, all of them were dead. Given Su Zimo's current cultivation, physique and bloodline, the burst from his voice technique was something that those spirit demons could not withstand. Even the fiend demons that were present shuddered violently. The two fiend demons that were fighting Monkey and the spirit tiger felt their minds go blank and their expressions froze. They were stunned on the spot. There was no way Monkey would let that opportunity slip. He rose and reached out to wring the head of the fiend demon before him off. The spirit tiger bit off the throat of the fiend demon opposite him and was invigorated. Don't fall in love with fighting. Focus on fighting our way out. Su Zimo let out a deep growl and continued to lead Monkey and the other three to charge outside. They would only be put in a tighter spot if they were entangled here. Trying to run? Stay. The soaring leopard and intermediate tiger's voices sounded. Both of them had already attacked. A cold light flashed. A gigantic flying disc tore through the air and almost sliced the voids into two. It arrived before Su Zimo instantly with a frightening aura. Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat. He could sense dermic power coming from the flying disc. It was a fiend demon dermic weapon. Although his body was strong and could even break spirit weapons, he could not defend against the edge of a dermic weapon. Dermic weapons were extremely precious in the world of demons. That was because demons did not know how to refine weapons. The dermic weapons they used were either obtained from killing human cultivators or the body parts, bones, fangs or claws from the body of some powerful grand demon. The flying disc was a scale from a high-level fiend demon. The intermediate tiger obtained it by chance and used it as a tribute to create his own destiny dermic weapon. This was a dermic weapon that was unusually tough with sharp edges and could be used defensively or offensively. It could block damage or be thrown out to deal lethal damage. Shoo! The sound of a sharp blade tearing through the air echoed. The soaring leopard struck and another cold flash of light appeared. Su Zimo could see clearly that the cold light was a dagger that had intricate patterns etched on it. There were 3 patterns and it was clear that this was a weapon created by a human weapon refinement master. It was a superior grade perfected Lord Dermic weapon. It was unknown how the soaring leopard got his hands on the dermic weapon, but it was something extremely rare for him. Needless to say, the two of them were definitely strong and experienced in combat given the fact that they were able to obtain the positions of protectors. Both of them could tell that Su Zimo's physique was terrifying, bloodline was unusual and was extremely strong in melee combat. They might not be able to win him even if they joined forces. The two of them merely exchanged a single glance before summoning their destiny dermic weapons at the same time to release a furious wave of attacks. The remaining fiend demons gradually snapped out of their stupor from Su Zimo's vocal technique and resumed their charge forward. The 2 dermic weapons arrived instantly. Su Zimo stood on the spot motionlessly, as though he had given up after he knew that he could not dodge it. The soaring leopard and intermediate tiger gripped their fists and their eyes lit up. Immediately after, the excitement in their eyes gradually vanished when they caught sight of what happened. Instead, their eyes were filled with doubt, shock and disbelief. The demonic chi that surrounded Su Zimo became thicker by the moment. As the demonic chi rumbled around him, gigantic, lifelike demons were swiftly summoned one after another and slowly materialized. The demons emanated an ancient aura, as though they came from the wilderness of the ancient era. Instantly the weather changed and the world quaked. the entire forest went silent. All the demon beasts present, be it spirit demons or fiend demons, kept silent in fear when they were watched by the 7 ancient demons. They did not even dare to breathe heavily. Chapter 799, Slaying the Protectors. Chapter 799, Slaying the Protectors. The speed of the scale and dagger slowed down before they even approached Suzimo. After the 7 ancient demon kings descended, the 2 dermic weapons could not push forward and trembled endlessly in midair as though they were under tremendous pressure. The expressions of the soaring leopard and intermediate tiger changed starkly. Both of them could clearly sense that their controls over their destiny dermic weapons were weakening rapidly. Roar! The sanguine ape and hell tiger roared at the same time and opened their massive mouths. As the demonic chi rumbled, the 2 of them devoured the 2 dermic weapons. Ugh! The soaring leopard and intermediate tiger grunted deeply and their faces turned paler. Both of them lost their connections to their dermic weapons. The dermic weapons were their destiny dermic weapons and had been refined for several hundred years using their essence spirits after they became fiend demons. Even if their dermic weapons were lost, they could sense them from thousands of miles apart. That was unless somebody was able to erase the spirit consciousness that they had imbued into their destiny dermic weapons. But how was that possible? The 2 of them had refined their destiny dermic weapons for several hundred years. If anybody of the same cultivation realm wanted to erase the imprint of their spirit consciousness from the dermic weapons and use it themselves, they would have to spend several hundred years as well. That was also one of the benefits of a destiny dermic weapon. It was not easily lost. Even if anybody stole their destiny dermic weapons, they would have to spend a long time erasing the spirit consciousness on the destiny dermic weapon. It was truly not worth the trouble. In fact, the destiny dermic weapon itself would pose a huge problem if the other party were to escape with it. The destiny dermic weapon was connected in a mysterious manner with its cultivator. By carrying the destiny dermic weapon of an enemy, one was exposing their current location and they would not know when their enemy would come knocking. The destiny dermic weapon would lead to one's death if its owner came searching for it with powerful enemies. Of course, if one's cultivation realm was far superior to the other party, they could make use of supreme dermic powers to erase the spirit consciousness in the destiny dermic weapon with ease. For example, if a mid-level fiend demon such as the Howling Moon Territorial Lord were to make a move, he could probably erase the spirit consciousness within the Soaring Leopard and Intermediate Tiger's destiny dermic weapons in less than 6 hours. However, that was why everything was bizarre. The person before the Soaring Leopard and Intermediate Tiger was not a mid-level fiend demon. To be precise, this person was not even a fiend demon. Although he was powerful with rumbling demonic chi and a torrential ferocity, there was a bright inner core that circulated within its chest. It was clear that this man was a spirit demon. How could a spirit demon erase the spirit consciousnesses of 2 destiny dermic weapons? Right then, the ancient demon king that devoured the scale and dagger spat out the 2 dermic weapons once more. The Soaring Leopard and Intermediate Tiger were delighted. I don't know what method this lad used to casually create a few beasts, humph. However, all of them only look strong but have no substance. Now that they know the pain, they have no choice but to spit our dermic weapons out. Foo-foo, the power of a dermic weapon isn't something that a mere spirit demon can challenge. The 2 of them sneered internally and a thought crossed their minds. They wanted to retrieve their destiny dermic weapons using their spirit consciousnesses. The moment they looked at the 2 dermic weapons, their gazes froze. The joy in their eyes had long vanished. In its place was endless shock. When the demonic chi dispersed and the 2 dermic weapons reappeared, they were riddled with holes and dim without light. It no longer mattered whether the imprints of their spirit consciousnesses were still within. After all, both dermic weapons were crippled and extremely battered in the blink of an eye. It was no longer just bizarre, it was frightening. Neither of them knew that the beasts they assumed were casually summoned were actually from the bloodline phenomenon of Suzimo after he cultivated the mystic classic of the 12 demon kings of the Great Wilderness. Although the 2 of them were low-level fiend demons, they had never heard of a bloodline phenomenon. Less than that, they did not know of the terror of the mystic classic of the 12 demon kings of the Great Wilderness. What was the mystic classic of the 12 demon kings of the Great Wilderness? It was a supreme demon classic that could overturn the world, twist yin and yang and steal creation by itself. It was the only copy within this world. The reason why Su Zimo was able to reach where he was step by step was all thanks to this cultivation technique left behind by Dayu. That was why he could remain standing against the crushing tides in Myriad Phenomenon City and kill the Rakshasas and God Race leader overwhelmingly despite successive battles and depleted spirit energy. The two low-level fiend demons were truly dreaming to think that they could injure Su Zimo with those two low-graded dermic weapons. Kill? Su Zimo's expression turned cold and he gave a deep roar. The 7 ancient demon kings around him roared and charged in all directions into the crowd with devastating killing power. There were more than 30 low-level fiend demons around them, and the presence of the 7 ancient demon kings was a disaster for them. Some of the fiend demons were indignant and wanted to take on the incoming anaconda foolishly. Instead, the anaconda coiled around them and ruptured their internal organs. A look of fear flashed through the soaring leopard and intermediate tiger's eyes when they saw that, and they wanted to retreat. All of a sudden, they felt their scalps prickle and their hair stood on end. They were already targeted by Su Zimo. They felt chills run down their spines when his overwhelming killing intent engulfed them. As though he could read their minds, Su Zimo said coldly, "Don't dream of escaping since you're the ones that came knocking." Swoosh. An evil gust of wind blew before his sentence was completed. Su Zimo had already closed into them in a flash. "Herg?" He spoke with a thunderous boom. The two of them were rattled. After all, the soaring leopard and intermediate tiger were protectors of Howling Moon Mountain. A decisive look flashed through their eyes and they chose to take the attack head-on together instead of turning to flee. At that moment, if the both of them were to flee, they would definitely die. The two of them had already reverted to their true forms and had ferocious gazes. A ball of blinding light intensified within their gigantic mouths that were opened. The ball of light gave off a powerful energy fluctuation. It was a demonic art. Demons would awaken their lineage memories when they advanced to fiend demons. Some rare fiend demons would find secret skills that made use of dermic powers within their lineage memories, and those secret skills were referred to by human cultivators as demonic arts. In other words, demonic arts were dermic arts used by fiend demons. All of a sudden, a blood-colored butterfly appeared behind Su Zimo. There were 2 round moons etched on the wings of the blood-colored butterfly that resembled a pair of eyes, glaring coldly at the soaring leopard and intermediate tiger. The dermic powers in the mouths of the soaring leopard and intermediate tiger dissipated when they were stared upon by the pair of eyes. Immediately after, the wings of the blood butterfly flapped gently. Bang! Bang! There were 2 dull thuds. The light balls in the mouths of the soaring leopard and intermediate tiger exploded instantly. Ah! The 2 protectors cried tragically and fresh blood streamed from their mouths that were ruptured into a bloody mess. Su Zimo reached out and slapped the 2 of them on the head violently. Snap! The sound of bones cracking could be heard. The 2 protectors shuddered and their gazes went blank before dimming. The palm strikes ruptured the essence spirits of the 2 protectors. With the death of the 2 protectors, the accompanying demon army was gradually defeated as well. A gigantic path appeared in the encirclement that surrounded them initially. Monkey and the others were invigorated and wanted to give chase to fight to their heart's content, but they were held back by Su Zimo. "Don't crave for battle. We have to leave this place first." Su Zimo had already reverted to his original form and had a calm expression as he brought Monkey and the other 3 with him to break free of the encirclement and escape far away. Chapter 800, Nowhere to Hide. Chapter 800, Nowhere to hide. Dangers lurked everywhere within the forest. The blood stench of this place would definitely attract even stronger demon beasts. They would only be stuck in danger if they were caught up with the other demon beasts. Right now they were only spirit demons. They were nothing much in the 8 demon regions and were at the bottom of the food chain within the entire demon world. No matter how many trump cards Su Zimo had and how strong he was, he could not defeat mid-level fiend demons. Furthermore, he had to try his best to conceal his means from the Immortal, Buddhist and Fiend sects within the demon regions. If he exposed his identity as a human cultivator, he would be an outcast within the entire Thousand Demon Valley, let alone Howling Moon Mountain. Su Zimo brought Monkey and the others and fought out of the encirclement. They decided on a rough direction and sprinted all the way east to seek shelter. Before daybreak, Su Zimo lost all the spirit demons that were hot on their tails and found another secluded cave. He scanned the vicinity carefully and entered after ensuring that there were no spirit demons watching them. The cave was connected to the front and the back of the mountain, and Suzumo checked out its interior before nodding to himself. He decided to hide here temporarily and prepare for their breakthroughs. Right now, the most pressing matter for them was to break through from the core formation realm and cultivate their essence spirits. For all 5 of them, an advancement to the next realm would increase their combat strength by leaps. Each of them obtained treasures from the ancient battlefield that could be used after they became fiend demons. Take a rest first and compose yourself. Make sure you are calm mentally. Suzumo could see fatigue on the faces of Monkey and the other 3. He reminded them before turning to leave. He started setting up formations on both ends of the cave. Around 6 hours later, right when he had just set up the formations at the entrance of the cave, Suzumo felt something amiss. More spirit demons were starting to gather in the vicinity. Furthermore, the number of them gathered increased. Suzumo could tell that the spirit demons were here for them. They were exposed again. How could that be? He stood within the cave with a dark gaze, glaring at the beast eyes that appeared within the depths of the forest from time to time through a formation between them. Previously it was 2 protectors of Howling Moon Mountain. Who was it this time round? After a moment of silence, Suzumo turned to wake Monkey and the other 3 who were recuperating. If I'm not wrong, we've been discovered by the demon beasts of Howling Moon Mountain again. We'll go and kill them off again. The spirit tiger waved his fist with confidence. However, this time round the prideful Monkey said nothing. Suzumo continued, the demon beasts sent by Howling Moon Mountain are only going to get stronger. I won't even be surprised if the Howling Moon Territorial Lord came personally this time round. What should we do? Little Fox had a worried expression. We'll leave here and continue on, Suzumo replied. All right. Monkey and the others nodded and followed Suzumo to leave from the back of the cave. They were on jitters throughout the entire journey. It was no wonder why the Thousand Demon Valley was one of the 8 demon regions. During this period of time they came across 3 mid-level fiend demons. Thankfully, Suzumo's spirit perception alerted them to it so that they could avoid the mid-level fiend demons. Even Suzumo felt shudders when he sensed the aura emanated by a bird that flew above them. The aura of the bird resembled the old immortal crane, and it was probably not a mid-level fiend demon. There was a high chance that it was a high-level fiend demon and an overlord. There was naturally no way they could hide their tracks from the bird. However, the bird merely glanced at the 5 of them indifferently. As though it could not be bothered because their cultivation realms were too low, the bird did not stop and just flew over them. They could come across similar situations at any moment. In other words, the 5 of them had to take on the risk of being devoured by stronger demon beasts at any moment if they wanted to cross the demon region. Before long, Suzumo located yet another ideal spot for hiding. A cave was hidden behind a waterfall and it was extremely spacious within. Although the running sound of the waterfall could be heard, that could be resolved easily with a sound barrier formation at the entrance of the cave. Suzumo felt relieved when he entered the place with Monkey and the others. After another 6 hours, just as Suzumo was halfway through with his array formation setups at the cave entrance, his ears twitched and he listened intently. A moment later, he rose with a cold glint in his eyes. They were discovered again. Demons had caught up to them here. Suzumo recounted carefully through his mind and was certain that they were not followed the entire time. There were no spirit demons that caught sight of them in the vicinity as well. Yet how were they exposed once again? What went wrong? Signs of exhaustion could already be seen on Monkey, the spirit tiger, Ching Ching and Little Fox's faces. They had not rested the entire time after they left the ancient battlefield and were tired from running for their lives. If this continued on, Monkey and the others wouldn't be able to hang on even if Suzumo could. Suzumo frowned with a dark expression. They no longer had any place to hide. They were in a predicament the moment they entered the Thousand Demon Valley, and the situation was worse than he had imagined. Did they really have to fight with their lives? Suddenly, Suzumo's heart skipped a beat and he spun around furiously to glare at the ground not far away. His muscles tensed up and he was ready to strike at any moment. Although Monkey and the others could not sense it, he could vaguely sense vibrations deep underground. Somebody was here. Something was not right. Suzumo focused his gaze and sensed carefully with an odd look in his eyes. Before long, a tiny mud bump popped up on the ground. Immediately after, the mound opened up and a shifty head with sleazy tiny eyes popped out and scanned the place in a furtive manner. The pair of eyes roved onto Suzumo's body and froze. Their eyes met. Indeed, it's you. Suzumo gave a fake smile. The thing that burrowed out of the mound was the gigantic rat that brought them here from the ancient battlefield. Suzumo's group clashed against the 3 fiend demons the moment they arrived. Initially, the rat was on the side of the 3 fiend demons. Later on, when it sensed something amiss in the situation after the battle broke out, it disappeared. To think that it would come knocking. Brothers, I'm so sorry. The rat was half buried in the mud and said in an embarrassed manner, I didn't expect something like this to happen after bringing you guys to the Howling Moon Mountain. Monkey and the others woke up as well. The spirit tiger could not help but sneer when he recounted the way the rat looked when it stood on the side of the 3 fiend demons. Are you here because you have a death wish? And no. The rat was shocked and a large part of its body fell back into the hole. It merely revealed half of its head, as though it was ready to escape at any moment, and laughed bitterly. The situation was pressing back then. I had no other choice. Just as the spirit tiger was about to mock it, Suzumo waved it off and asked indifferently, What are you here for? How did you find us? Cough. The rat coughed gently. Actually, your location has been exposed. Obviously. The spirit tiger pouted his lips. Even an idiot knows that we've been exposed since you're here. Brother Badian, do you know how you guys were exposed? The rat asked. Suzumo's eyes shimmered and he looked at the rat silently, awaiting its answer. Chapter 801 Breakthroughs. Chapter 801 Breakthroughs. There's a deputy territorial lord for Howling Moon Mountain. The rat said, The reason why you guys are being exposed is because of the deputy territorial lord, Chanrui. Chanrui? Suzumo murmured slowly and a look of realization filled his eyes, as though he thought of something. The rat continued, Lord Chanrui's true form is an ancient remnant beast, the mystic jade cricket of the cricket race that rules over the mountainous region within a few thousand kilometers radius of Howling Moon Mountain. The 5 of you are a large mark and easily recognizable as you travel through the forest. As long as there are crickets, your location will be exposed. The spirit tiger and the others were dumbfounded. Although he had spent a period of time in the Wild Lion Ridge with Monkey, he had never heard of such means. How many crickets were there in the forest? There were probably innumerable. This meant that every single move they made had been watched by the enemies the entire time. The ordinary cicadas cannot even be considered as spirit demons. However, once they become sentient, they possess the communication method unique to the cicada race and can relay your location to Lord Chanrui's side. Suzumo nodded silently. There was no mistake. Back when they were hiding in the first cave, Suzumo already felt something odd when he heard the crickets outside the cave. He felt that something was amiss, as though they were being spied on, but he could not put his finger to it. Now he knew where the problem was. What should we do? Little Fox was worried. According to the rat, they had been spied on the entire time and would be discovered no matter where they were. There was nowhere for them to hide. After all, there were crickets everywhere in the forest. The best way is to leave the radius of Howling Moon Mountain temporarily. Suzumo said deeply, once we break through from the core formation realm and cultivate our essence spirits to become fiend demons, we can hide our aura and change our appearances. Those crickets won't be able to recognize us even if we return here. Brother, you sure are smart. You're absolutely right. The rat complimented him hurriedly. Ching Ching furrowed her brow. However, we know nothing about Howling Moon Mountain. If we move without any direction, we'll be caught by that Chanrui person before we even leave Howling Moon Mountain. Suzumo did not reply and merely turned to look at the rat with a fake smile. The spirit tiger's heart stirred and his gaze turned fierce as he said threateningly, Rat, take us out or, humph. The rat broke out in sweat and said hurriedly, Don't get worked up, Brother Badian. The reason why I'm here is to present you guys with a map of Howling Moon Mountain. The rat threw out a map made of beast hide as it spoke. However, it did not come personally and half of its body was still hidden in the hole, as though it was ready to escape at any moment, afraid that the spirit tiger might capture it. Suzumo picked up the map and gave it a rough glance. Apart from the terrain, the map even possessed some information about the territories nearby Howling Moon Mountain. This was way too important to them. With this map, they could easily choose a nearest direction and method to leave Howling Moon Mountain. Previously they sprinted eastwards the entire way. If they continued in that direction, they won't be able to leave Howling Moon Mountain even after half a month. However, after checking with the map, They could escape from this place within a couple of days if they changed directions and headed to the south. Rat, this map isn't fake, is it? The spirit tiger looked askance at the rat and asked, "Why are you so kind as to come such a long distance just to help us?" Suzimo was also watching the rat when the spirit tiger asked the question. The spirit tiger's worries were not unfounded. The rat rubbed its palms together and said embarrassedly, "I brought you guys here and I truly feel bad for everything that happened later on. We don't owe one another anything else after I give you this map." Suzimo was relieved. There was no hint of panic in the rat's eyes. It did not seem like it was lying. "Since that's the case, let's move now." Suzimo could sense that the number of spirit demons gathering were increasing. They won't be able to escape if this carried on, and Chanrui arrived with more fiend demons. Before departing, Suzimo turned and looked at the rat. "Won't you be implicated for giving us the map?" "I'm fine." The rat waved it off. "I found this place through my own capabilities as well. As long as you guys don't tell, nobody will know that I gave you the map. Farewell, see you again." Suzimo led Monkey and the others out of the waterfall and fled into the distance. "We had better not meet again." The rat looked at the direction where Suzimo's group departed and murmured. It burrowed into the hole and vanished in the blink of an eye. 3 days later. The Black Sand Ridge was also a territory that was side by side to Howling Moon Mountain. The name of its territorial lord was the Black Sand Monster, and its true form was unknown. It possessed frightening strength, was bloodthirsty, and its territory was much larger than Howling Moon Mountain. At this moment, Suzimo's group located a secluded cave at the intersection of Black Sand Ridge and Howling Moon Mountain and settled down temporarily. Once they were out of the territory of Howling Moon Mountain, they were free from the tracking of the cricket race. Suzimo set up array formations painstakingly in the vicinity of the cave once again for safety precautions. Monkey, the spirit tiger, Ching Ching and Little Fox were cultivating within, and their conditions gradually stabilized. Slowly, they were in perfect conditions for their breakthroughs to the nascent soul realm at any moment. Suzimo guarded the entrance of the cave motionlessly, trying his best to repress his churning inner core and the throbbing golden core in his abdomen. Suddenly, his eyes jerked open and he turned back, sensing something. The first to break through was Monkey. Monkey's aura had already begun to transform. A wisp of faint might engulfed downwards. That was heaven and earth powers. Although it was only a single wisp, it was terrifying enough. Monkey's flesh split apart and his fur fell off. However, immediately after, new layers of flesh grew atop one another and his entire body became taller and stronger. The transformation process of a body was extremely painful. Monkey's body quivered the entire time. However, he had a proud expression and did not make a single peep of sound. The aura led the spirit tiger's body to change as well. Roar. Suddenly, the spirit tiger let out a roar and reverted to his true form. A series of crackling sounds could be heard from within his body as it expanded and his muscles swelled. Caw. Ching Ching began her breakthrough after the spirit tiger. Her breakthrough triggered the bloodline of the Baifeng that was within her body, and her body blazed with a light green flame. Her aura intensified continuously. Little Fox was the last to break through. It was different from Monkey, the spirit tiger, and Ching Ching. Little Fox's breakthrough created the least commotion and a pink mist shrouded her body. Steam rose with a faint fragrance that could bewitch one's mind. Suzimo watched fixedly with a nervous expression. A breakthrough of the core formation realm to cultivate an essence spirit was equivalent to communicating with heaven and earth and advancing instantly. It was a heavenly defying act that was extremely dangerous. Throughout history, there had been countless people who died at this stage, be it demons or human cultivators. If one failed the breakthrough process from the foundation establishment realm to the golden core realm, their spirit meridians would be snapped and their spirit energies would disperse entirely. However, they had a chance to live as mortals. But a failure in advancement from the core formation realm to the nascent soul realm would result in instant death. An unknown period of time passed. The auras around Monkey, the spirit tiger, Ching Ching and Little Fox gradually stabilized and their furrowed brows became relaxed as well. A tremendous amount of life force surged from within their bodies. Suzimo knew that the 4 of them had already become fiend demons. Next, it was his turn. Chapter 802, Arrival of Danger. Chapter 802, arrival of danger. After 3 days, the cultivation realms of Monkey and the other 3 stabilized and they woke up one after another. They experienced heaven and earth through the essence spirits in their spirit consciousnesses and their eyes were filled with joy and surprise. With the cultivation of their essence spirits, they were completely at the state of inertia and could cultivate by devouring the essence of day and night. This was equivalent to them tempering their bodies, tendons and bones as well as refining their essence spirits using the heaven and earth powers. This was a higher level than consuming flesh. At this point of their cultivation, powerful demon beasts would awaken the lineage memories in their bloodlines. Their lineage memories may contain cultivation techniques to refine one's spirit or some demonic arts. The stronger the bloodline, the better the rewards of their lineage memories would be. For ancient remnant beasts and pure-blooded ferocious beasts, they would have their own unique lineage memories. Although Monkey was already awake, his eyes were squinted as though he was experiencing something. The origin of his bloodline was unknown but it was definitely extraordinary. His bloodshot eyes alone were proof of that. The spirit tiger was originally a plain demon beast without any lineage memories. Even when he cultivated the Void Thunder manual later on, he merely underwent a blood marrow swap that improved on his body's fundamental qualities. But right now, the spirit tiger was clearly in a state where he was receiving lineage memories. The lineage came from the 4 tiger claws in the astral dragon sputum lair. The 4 tiger claws were infused into the spirit tiger's body and naturally passed down their lineage memories. The bloodline of the Bai Fong flowed within Qing Qing's body and she naturally had lineage memories as well. Little Fox possessed many secret skills from her lineage of the fox race as well. Monkey and the other 3 needed time to digest their current state of being as fresh fiend demons. It wasn't just to comprehend their lineage memories, they had to sense heaven and earth using their essence spirits as well. They could finally refine the weapons they obtained from the astral dragon sputum lair as well. First, go and cultivate. We'll guard here. Monkey came beside Su Zimo and said, "All right." Su Zimo did not decline and headed into the depths of the cave. He assumed a lotus position and closed his eyes to gather his chi in peace. Unknowingly, an odd sensation surged through his heart. Although his eyes were closed, he seemed like he could see every corner of his body, including his organs and meridians. It was a mysterious sensation. It was like the legendary inner vision. Su Zimo could see 2 gigantic cores that were swiveling slowly. One of them was in his chest, a blood core with a scarlet glow. The other was in his abdomen, a golden core with a blinding glare. The auras of the 2 gigantic cores were starkly different. At this moment, the power of both cores were at their limits and they vibrated, as though they wanted to break free from their core chambers and surge into the air. Su Zimo felt a wave of boundless heaven and earth powers. He had never felt that heaven and earth were so close to him. It was as though he could feel the breathing of heaven and earth as well as its pulse. The next moment, Su Zimo saw the layer of void. The so-called void was the shackles from heaven and earth that bound a cultivator. To cultivate was to go against the heavens and break through the realms to expand one's lifespan. They were breaking free from the shackles implemented on every single living being by heaven and earth. There was an ancient saying in the cultivation world that one could see their spirit as long as they could break through the void. The breakthrough of the void was actually referring to the breaking free of that shackle. The 2 gigantic cores within his body were what he needed to break through and free himself. Su Zimo no longer repressed himself. His inner core transformed into a streak of blood light and his golden core turned into a streak of golden light. Both of them left their core chambers at the same time and surged into the layer of void within his body. Bang! Bang! 2 gigantic explosions burst forth in the void above his inner core and golden cores. Su Zimo shuddered. The void shuddered as well, but nothing unusual happened to it. His inner and golden cores fell and hovered in midair momentarily before launching another attack upwards. Bang! 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 The 2 cores clashed against the void endlessly and released earth-shaking explosions. The void quivered and finally ripples appeared one after another. 4 ordinary perfected beings, they only had a single golden core within their body when they broke through the voids and released themselves from the shackles. However, Su Zimo had 2 cores. Not only that, his inner core was created through cultivating the mystic classic of the 12 demon kings of the great wilderness and possessed frightening strength. His golden core contained the essence of the immortal, Buddhist and Fiend Daos as well. No void or shackles could withstand the burst power from these two supreme cores. This was also the reason why it was relatively simpler for paragons among perfected beings to advance to the nascent soul realm. The power of a golden core within any perfected being that could be referred to as a paragon was definitely superior compared to others. The stronger the power of one's golden core, the easier it was for them to break through the void. Before long, a series of cracks surfaced on the layer of void and it was on the brink of shattering after the repeated bursts from the inner and golden core. Everything went smoothly. However, Su Zimo's expression darkened. For any other cultivator, the danger of breaking through to the nascent soul realm might have been the process of breaking through the voids. After all, it would be a failure if they could not break through the layer of void and their golden cores would rupture internally, leading to their deaths. However, Su Zimo's situation was different from others. His danger probably came after his breakthrough of the void. Su Zimo did not dare to be distracted and focused on breaking through the void barrier wholeheartedly. Bang! Boom! Bang! Finally, a loud explosion echoed after the relentless attacks. The void shattered. Instantly, Su Zimo felt a weight lifted from his body, as though an invisible shackle was broken. His glabella shone with a light spot. His body was connected to heaven and earth and the Naiwan Palace had appeared. Su Zimo caught sight of an incorporeal body of light within the Naiwan Palace. That body of light was his soul. He would not have been able to see the existence of his soul if he had not broken through the void. His inner and golden cores charged into the Naiwan Palace and a resplendent light filled the entire chamber instantly. It was white all over and reflected the palace within the depths of his glabella flawlessly. Immediately after was the formation of his essence spirit. The soul was incorporeal and a corporeal object that resembled an infant would be formed after the golden core was fused into the soul. That was the essence spirit. Su Zimo took out a spirit-gathering fruit from his storage bag and consumed it. The spirit-gathering fruit melted right away in his mouth and a ball of essence chi surged into his spirit platform. With the push of the ball of essence chi, Su Zimo's inner and golden cores pushed his soul at the same time. Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat and he sensed danger. There was naturally no issue for any other cultivator once their golden core fused with their soul. However, his body did not merely contain the golden core, he had an inner core as well. In other words, the likely outcome if both his golden and inner cores fought for his soul at the same time would be. Before he could finish that thought, he felt a series of excruciating pains from his soul. Su Zimo howled in pain and collapsed with his head facing the air. His body trembled uncontrollably as he coiled up with a pale expression. Monkey and the others were initially refining their weapons at the entrance of the cave. All of them jumped in shock when they heard the commotion. "Young master!" Little Fox yelped with a flustered expression and dashed towards Su Zimo. "Don't go!" Monkey held her back with a grim look on his face. If he receives any external disturbances at a moment like this, there's a chance that he might not make it through the tribulation. Chapter 803 8th Demon King. Chapter 803, 8th Demon King. Monkey was not wrong, nobody could help Su Zimo at this moment. His danger came internally. In other words, it was his choice to make. If he chose to give up on the inner core that he had painstakingly cultivated over the years, his golden core could fuse with his soul and create an essence spirit smoothly. However, he was indignant. This was a cultivation technique imparted to him by Dayu. It was also his greatest support that helped him to get to where he was. The inner core embodied special feelings for Su Zimo. That was the reason why he had never wavered or considered giving up his inner core despite the damnations of the world, insults of outsiders and the infamy of being someone from a foreign race. Similarly, he could form an essence spirit if he gave up on his golden core and fused the inner core with his soul. However, that would mean that Su Zimo would become a demon fully. He was unwilling to do that as well. Under those circumstances where his soul was being fought for by two supreme cores, it was extremely treacherous and his soul could shatter at any moment. Su Zimo could not be bothered any longer and took out spirit-gathering fruits from his storage bag, stuffing them into his mouth mindlessly. At most, 2 spirit-gathering fruits were required for cultivators to form their essence spirits. There would be no effect even if more were consumed. However, Su Zimo couldn't care less at the moment and took out all the spirit-gathering fruits in his storage bag, stuffing them into his mouth. He knew that nothing else mattered if he could not get through this ordeal. The spirit-gathering fruits turned into streams of essence chi and surged right into his spirit platform. His inner and golden cores fought even more intensely. The illusory ball of light in his spirit platform was gradually ripped into two by the different powers, and Su Zimo almost passed out when the pain seared into the depths of his soul. The split of his soul caused a swift deterioration in the life force within his body. Any missing part of his soul would pose a huge problem to his body. Much less the fact that his soul was ripped into two right now. Su Zimo's consciousness gradually sank into the endless abyss continuously. Right then, a spark lit up in the dark abyss. It was a flower that burned with flames. It was the Soraka flower dye you left behind for him. The Soraka flower blossomed on the Ashoka tree. The Ashoka tree was one of the three sacred trees of Buddhism. Legend has it that Buddha was enlightened beneath the Ashoka tree. The robust life force contained within the Soraka flower was the very thing that allowed Su Zimo's golden core to recover completely back then. Now that his life was hanging on a thread, the Soraka flower had reappeared. The Soraka flower raised his soul and rose continuously, breaking free of the dark abyss. The petals of the Soraka flower withered as it blazed. At the same time, a rich life force was emanated as it burned and repaired the two incomplete parts of the soul. After a period of time, the Soraka flower was burned completely and the massive life force it possessed healed the two incomplete parts of the soul completely. Although the soul was ripped into two, it became two whole souls after the nurturing from the Soraka flower's life force. The inner and golden cores fused within. The two incorporeal light bodies gradually materialized. Rainbow lights filled the skies above the spirit platform and two infants assumed lotus positions. Their features were gradually formed and glowed with a divine light that swiveled around them. They looked exactly the same as Su Zimo. The form of an infant was the closest to heaven and earth. That was the reason why a fetus was able to ensure the continuity of life even when it was unable to breathe within the sealed space in its mother's womb. The nascent soul realm represented the intent of one returning to their roots. The two infants sat on each side, and upon closer inspection, one would be able to see the differences between the two of them. The infant on the hair had scarlet hair as red as blood. Its face had tough lines and there was a demonic aura around it. Although it was in the shape of an infant, it gave off a faint sense of authority from its expression. The infant on the right was filled with black hair and looked much more scholarly and weak. Its aura was unique as well, with a hint of immortal chi, fiend nature as well as Buddhist light. It was indescribable. The infant on the left was formed by the inner core. The infant on the right was formed by the golden core. Success. Although the Soraka flower had dispersed, Su Zimo had managed to cultivate to the nascent soul realm successfully. Furthermore, there were two infants in his spirit platform. The scarlet-haired infant took the lead and controlled the spirit platform to hold the fort of the Niwen Palace. Suddenly, Su Zimo's aura changed and his initially black hair gradually turned into the color of blood. It was extremely sinister, as though his hair was injected with fresh blood. Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat. Tiny scales appeared one after another on the scarlet-haired infant's body and lined its body completely. Two horns popped up on its head and the aura it gave off became extremely frightening. Along with that, a similar transformation happened on Su Zimo's body. A single thought was all that was needed for Su Zimo's dragonification. Thereafter, the scarlet-haired infant retreated to a corner and the black-haired infant assumed a lotus position in the middle of the spirit platform. Within the cave, Su Zimo's scarlet hair gradually recovered and the evil demonic chi around him earlier on vanished without a trace. He looked like he did not belong to the mortal realm. Monkey and the other three surrounded Su Zimo and looked at him with dumbfounded expressions. His methods were way too shocking. The moment he advanced to the nascent soul realm, Su Zimo was able to change his appearance at will and could even alter his aura. "I'm fine now." Gradually, he opened his eyes and smiled at the four faces around him. The few of them were finally relieved when they heard that. Su Zimo gave a faint smile. "You guys can continue to cultivate and stabilize your cultivation realms while refining your weapons. There's no need to worry about me." "All right." Monkey and the others were relieved at the sight of Su Zimo's well-being and dispersed to cultivate. Su Zimo closed his eyes again and joy sparked through his heart in waves. He had received way too many changes upon his advancement to the nascent soul realm. First off, his lifespan was extended. At the nascent soul realm, the lifespan of a human cultivator became 1,000 years from its original 500 years. That was a full 2 times. Also, there was the increase in combat strength. Once an essence spirit was cultivated, one could use it to feel heaven and earth and utilize dermic powers while releasing various dermic arts. He could also begin to cultivate many other cultivation techniques as well. For his immortality cultivation, he had 2 heaven-grade spirit cultivation techniques, the Purple Thunder Manual and the Great Day Rulai Sutra. For his demonic cultivation, the full content of the 8th and 9th sections of the Mystic Classic of the 12 Demon Kings of the Great Wilderness, the Yin and Yang spirit sections, surfaced within his memories. As Su Zimo had expected, there was an ancient demon king associated with the contents of the Yin and Yang spirit sections. What he did not expect was that the ancient demon king was a dragon king. The 8th demon king had appeared. The Yin spirit section focused on spirit refinement. Be it the scarlet-haired Yin spirit or the black-haired essence spirit, they were both in the shape of an infant and were extremely fragile. They could not even withstand the elements, let alone sabers and swords. An essence spirit would die with ease the moment it left a body. That was the reason why, be it his immortality or demonic cultivation, Su Zimo's next priority was to refine his spirit. The Mystic Classic of the 12 Demon Kings of the Great Wilderness said that the impurities of the Yin spirit had to be refined so that it could become a pure spirit of Yang without Yin, known as the Yang spirit. For immortality cultivation, there was the saying of reverting the spirit to the void, and that was the reason why the void reversion realm came after the nascent soul realm. Be it the Yang spirit or the essence spirit of the void reversion realm, they did not fear the elements and were truly free of the shackles of the physical body, able to roam the outside world with ease. In fact, they could take over one's body. Chapter 804 Imminent. Chapter 804 Imminent. There were no records of secret skills or dermic arts of the dragon race that were meant for killing within the Yin spirit section. Among them, there was a spirit refinement technique from the Dragon King Desolate Ocean, and it described how one should consume the essence of day and night to strengthen their bodies and bloodline. Under normal circumstances, Su Zimo would encounter great difficulties in cultivating the Yin spirit section. Previously, if Daiyu had not guided him by the side, there was no way he could have comprehended the bones strengthening, tendons transformation and body tempering sections within a few short years. Before she left, she also mentioned that it would be difficult for Su Zimo to continue with his cultivation post her departure. That was the truth as well. Later on, for the organs refinement section, Su Zimo met with a great bottleneck and was stuck for a long time. If he had not been awakened in the middle of the night by a freak accident and heard the sound of tigers and leopards, he would not have gotten to where he was today. The essence and secret of the organs refinement section came from ordinary demon beasts like the tiger and leopard. However, the Yin spirit section came from a dragon king. It was almost impossible for a cultivator to cultivate a spirit refinement technique of a dragon king. Even with his deep understanding of the Immortal, Buddhist and Fiend Daos, it would be difficult for Su Zimo to comprehend the Yin spirit section. However, through coincidence, Su Zimo once consumed half a dragon egg, cultivated the ancient dragonification art later on and consumed a dragon's blood for 20 years to cultivate the illumination dragon eye. The bloodline of the dragon race was already fully fused into his body. Right now, Su Zimo could be considered as a half-being from the dragon race. It was not difficult for him to understand everything that was stated in the Yin spirit section. Furthermore, he would require less effort to cultivate the Yin spirit section. Although Daiyu was divinely and her methods were extraordinary, even she might not have expected this outcome all those years ago. Right now, the scarlet-haired Yin spirit sat within Su Zimo's spirit platform and controlled his body. Su Zimo waved his hand and a mirror made of water was formed. Within the mirror, he saw his scarlet hair and a pair of eyes that shone with a demonic glint. He looked extremely evil. Although he was in the form of a human, there would be no fiend demon that would doubt his identity. Su Zimo nodded to himself with a satisfied expression. His current appearance was more suitable for him to roam the Thousand Demon Valley and would save him a lot of trouble. "Young master, are you all right?" Little Fox rushed over and asked concernedly when she saw that Su Zimo was awake. "I'm fine." He gave a gentle smile. "You guys continue to cultivate. Don't worry about me." "Ha, I told you guys that first will definitely be fine." The spirit tiger laughed and was relieved. Easy to say on hindsight. Monkey pouted and walked to the side as he continued to cultivate. All of them had just formed their essence spirits and became fiend demons. There were many things that they had to familiarize themselves with. They did not only have to be familiar with the changes in their bodies, they also had to refine their weapons. A rusty, long rod was propped in front of Monkey. It towered into the skies and was even taller than him. The rod was filled with rust and looked extremely common. However, this rod was discovered back in the astral dragon sputum lair. Furthermore, even Lin Xuanji seemed like he was stunned when he caught sight of this rod. There was a simple reason why Monkey chose this rod. When he first caught sight of this rod, he felt a beckoning to it from the unknowns. Monkey's glabella shone and his spirit consciousness spread out and engulfed the rod. He began to refine it and leave the unique imprint of his spirit consciousness on it. He intended to refine this rod as his destiny dermic weapon. On the other side, the spirit tiger was refining his own dermic weapon as well. The dermic weapon he obtained in the astral dragon sputum lair was none other than the 4 tiger claws. Initially, he thought that the 4 tiger claws had fused and vanished into his body. It was only after he became a fiend demon that he could sense the existence of the 4 tiger claws. The spirit tiger circulated his essence spirit and he gripped his fists with trembling arms. In the gap between his knuckles, a jade-white and almost transparent claw with a chilling aura pierced through his flesh slowly and protruded out. It was slender, long and sharp like a dagger. There were 2 claws on each knuckle. Instinctively, the spirit tiger scratched the 4 claws against one another gently. Clang. Sparks flew everywhere. A metallic sound could be heard the moment the claws made contact. The spirit tiger's eyes widened as he looked at the 4 weapons that protruded from his knuckles. He was secretly delighted when he sensed the sharp aura they emanated. The 4 claws could definitely be considered as indestructible. Furthermore, the 4 dermic weapons were fused perfectly with his body and he could use them like a part of his body. He could naturally unleash his combat strength to its greatest potential. An azure green feather fan hovered in front of Qing Qing. Through the augmentation of her essence spirit, flames burned around the feather fan and refined it continuously. The fan shone with a pure jade green color. The reason why she chose this fan was because the feathers on it were taken from a Baifeng. Half of the bloodline that flowed within Qing Qing's body came from a Baifeng as well. There was nobody more suitable than her to use the azure green fan. Monkey and the other 3 all had different methods of refining their dermic weapons. Right now, a pitch-black umbrella hovered above Little Fox's head. She had a grim expression and would look up from time to time to spit out a trail of powder with a faint fragrance. The powder enveloped the pitch-black umbrella and left an imprint of her essence spirit. Crack, crack, crack. Right then, a cracking sound echoed throughout the cave as though something was shattered. Monkey's heart skipped a beat and he glared at the rod before him with a bright gaze. The cracking sound came from the rod before him. After the continuous refinement of his essence spirit, something finally happened to the rod before him. A large pierce of rust cracked apart and a blinding, golden light shone from within and spread slowly. Instantly, the golden light suppressed the auras of the spirit tiger's claws, Qing Qing's azure green fan and Little Fox's pitch-black umbrella. Even the array formation set up at the cave entrance could barely contain the blinding golden light. The golden light surged into the skies. Swoosh! The piece of rust on the rod finally fell and revealed the golden body of the rod. The golden light gradually dimmed. A small word was etched on the spot where the rust fell off. Imminent. Imminent, imminent, dominating. What a great name. Monkey reared his head in laughter and pulled out the rod in front of him. He danced with it, delighted. 1,000 miles away from here, in the Black Wind Ridge, several hundred demons were crossing through the forest with a mighty force. All the demon beasts in the vicinity had already escaped long ago upon hearing them. Among the several hundred demons, there were 8 muscular bull demons in the middle that lifted a gigantic open-air carriage. They grunted as they advanced steadily. Around the gigantic carriage were even dozens of low-level fiend demons. Everyone was circling the center. On the carriage, there was a pale-faced young man in black robes with intoxicated eyes. He laid down on the knees of a woman wearing a veil with a voluptuous figure. The woman's ears were sharp. She was clearly not a human. However, she was extremely beautiful and charming. She held a bunch of grapes that resembled green jade pearls with her left hand and smiled as she fed them to the black-robed young man. Thereafter, she sipped a mouthful of wine and leaned forward slightly before kissing the black-robed man on the lips. she stuck out her tongue gently and allowed the wine to flow through. The man had an intoxicated expression as he enjoyed himself, savoring the fragrant aroma of the woman. All of a sudden, a golden light appeared in the distant skies and vanished instantly. The black-robed man's eyes opened up and shone brightly. There was no hint of intoxication at all. He looked over and curled his lips, grabbing the woman on the chest fiercely as he said in a relaxed manner, "Let's go check things out." Chapter 805, Frightening Spirit Consciousness. Chapter 805, Frightening Spirit Consciousness. Within the cave, Monkey was excited and gripped Imminent with both hands as he danced in a lively manner. After images of the rod appeared everywhere in a dizzying manner. Although the commotion caused by Imminent was significant, Suzimo did not notice it. At that moment he was completely immersed in his cultivation. After he advanced to the nascent soul realm, changes were happening to his flesh, tendons, bones, bloodline and organs. When he broke through the void and formed his essence spirit, it was equivalent to him connecting to heaven and earth. Even without Suzimo controlling it consciously, his body became stronger and even more frightening under the influence of dermic powers. Of course, this was a process. Some cultivators may require half a year, several years or even decades. However, Suzimo noticed that his transformation process happened at an extremely swift speed. It was as though a violent cyclone was rippling through his body and he could clearly sense his strength increasing. He was growing stronger at every second. This was the terror of his double essence spirits. A single essence spirit would bring about dermic powers that could augment a cultivator's bloodline and physique. Two essence spirits caused the augmentation to become more obvious and happen faster. Furthermore, the two essence spirits that Suzimo cultivated were extremely strong to begin with. At that moment, the scarlet-haired Yin spirit took the main spot in the middle of the spirit platform. The black-haired essence spirit assumed a lotus position in the corner. Suzimo discovered that the truly terrifying aspect of having two essence spirits was that both of them were able to cultivate at the same time without affecting the other. At that moment, his scarlet-haired Yin spirit had begun cultivation on the Yin spirit section of the mystic classic of the 12 demon kings of the great wilderness. The black-haired essence spirit in the corner had also begun on the purple thunder manual. This way, neither of the essence spirits would fall off in their cultivation realms. On the surface, Suzimo was at the early stage nascent soul realm. However, the power of his essence spirits was definitely above an early stage nascent soul. Furthermore, he had many trump cards up his sleeves. His actual combat strength had far surpassed an early stage nascent soul's. Now that he was at the nascent soul realm, he might even stand a chance if he was up against an early stage void reversion or even some weaker mid-level fiend demons. Void reversion realm. Suzimo murmured softly with a chilling intent. Dao Being Xianyu was at the void reversion realm. Back in the Great Chen ruins, Dao Being Xianyu disregarded his capacity as a void reversion and interfered in the fight for the vermilion fruit to kill Suzimo. Suzimo's wrist was not only severed, his inner core was shattered, his golden core was destroyed and his cultivation was completely crippled. It was also because of Dao Being Xianyu that the 13 cities of Yan country were slaughtered later on, resulting in the homeless and destitute plight of the citizens of Yan country. Because of this, Su Hong was mentally drained and eventually passed away from the ordeal. In order to save Suzimo Little Fox's fire-blocking basket, the only thing left behind for her by her mother, was taken away by Dao Being Xianyu as well. Suzimo remembered everything. Of course, he also knew very well that even though he had two essence spirits, carried the bloodline of the dragon race in his body and had many trump cards, he was not a match for Dao Being Xianyu right now. However, once he cultivated to mid-late stage or even perfected nascent soul realm, he was confident that he could take on Dao Being Xianyu. Time passed by gradually. After their initial excitement of refining their weapons, Monkey and the others settled down quietly and cultivated properly as well. Suzimo slapped his storage bag and took out a seemingly battered lotus seat. His glabella shone faintly and swept through the old lotus seat. Instantly, it vanished and entered Suzimo's consciousness. It was time to refine the creation green lotus. All of a sudden, Suzimo's ears twitched and he frowned. There seemed to be many demon beasts headed in their direction. Birds and beasts roamed the Thousand Demon Valley, and it was only normal for demon beasts to pass by. Su Zimo was not certain that the demon beasts were coming for them as well. Furthermore, the demon beasts were clearly from the Black Sand Ridge. There shouldn't be any feud between them and Black Sand Ridge. What was the background of these demon beasts? With that, Su Zimo cast a mysterious energy from his glabella with a single thought, and it spread outside like a water ripple. He froze momentarily and was instantly enlightened. If he was not wrong, that should be the spirit consciousness that came with his cultivation of an essence spirit. If the five senses of the body were sight, sound, smell, taste and sight, the spirit consciousness was a sense of the essence spirit. Although it was only a single sense, it encompassed the uses of the five senses. Although Su Zimo was blocked by the cave and could not see everything that was going on outside, he could sense everything outside the cave using his spirit consciousness. His spirit consciousness could even sense an ant crawling beneath the mud within a radius of 5 kilometers. It was a mysterious sensation. Through the sense of his spirit consciousness, Su Zimo could clearly see how the ant looked like in every single hair on its feelers and legs. The five senses existed innately and could be found even in Immortal. Because of that, there were many restrictions for the five senses. For example, a single leaf could block one's vision. However, the spirit consciousness faced no issues of the sort. Spirit consciousness resembled flowing water that penetrated every single pore. Even if there was a leaf before one's eyes, the spirit consciousness would wrap around the leaf and could even see every single pattern etched on the back of the leaf. Although Su Zimo could hear the commotion outside right now, he could not see who were the people who created the commotion. However, his spirit consciousness could. Su Zimo spread his spirit consciousness and extended it forward to check. 5 kilometers. 10 kilometers. 25 kilometers. The radius of Su Zimo's spirit consciousness expanded continuously. After 50 kilometers, Su Zimo felt that his essence spirit was at its limits and his spirit consciousness weakened, unable to extend further. All of a sudden, Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat as he realized something. His spirit consciousness almost dissipated due to the shock. From an ancient book at the bottom of the Dragon Burial Valley, he had once read about some records describing the spirit consciousness. 4 ordinary nascent souls, the radius of their spirit consciousness was only around 5 kilometers. They were already considered powerful if they could extend to a radius of 10 kilometers. Anybody that could reach 15 kilometers were all considered as paragons. Rare monster incarnates could reach a radius of 20 or 25 kilometers. 50 kilometers was the spirit consciousness radius of void reversions. At this moment, Su Zimo had only just advanced to the nascent soul realm. However, his spirit consciousness could extend to a radius of 50 kilometers. It was comparable to the spirit consciousness of a void reversion. Moreover, this was merely the radius of the scarlet-haired Een spirit's spirit consciousness. The radius of the black-haired essence spirit's spirit consciousness was also around 50 kilometers. If he could fuse the powers of the two essence spirits together, he could probably spread his spirit consciousness to a radius of 100 kilometers. Su Zimo took a deep breath and composed himself slowly. He had already seen the group of demon beasts with his spirit consciousness. Through the shroud of his spirit consciousness, Su Zimo could see the appearance of every single demon beast and even their cultivation realms. He could even sense the aura they emanated. He caught sight of the merry-making black-robed young man seated in the carriage in the middle of the many demon beasts. The black-robed young man seemed to be shielded by a barrier that Su Zimo's spirit consciousness could not penetrate. He could not see the background of the black-robed young man either. When Su Zimo swept past the black-robed young man, the latter seemed to have sensed something. Clarity returned to the black-robed young man's eyes as he glanced over to this side in a seemingly casual manner. Thereafter, he looked at the woman beside him with an intoxicated gaze and said lustfully, "Beauty, drink. Drink." Chapter 806, Young Master of the Black Sand Ridge. Chapter 806, Young Master of the Black Sand Ridge. The black-robed young man seemed like he was completely immersed in merrymaking with the woman beside him. A moment later, when the spirit consciousness that shrouded him faded like the ebbing of a tide, the black-robed young man suddenly sat upright. Clarity returned to his eyes as he rubbed his chin with a cold expression, murmuring, "Interesting." "What's wrong, young master?" The woman's voluptuous body stuck closely onto the black-robed young man. She rubbed against his body gently and asked in a flirting manner with a coquettish tone. The black-robed young man's lips curled as he said with a fake smile, "Nothing much. Somebody spread his spirit consciousness earlier on and scanned me." "What a fool." The woman harumphed and said in a pandering manner, "To think that someone would dare to check on our young master in the Black Sand Ridge. Doesn't he know any rules at all?" "Since this person doesn't know any rules, I can teach them to him," the black-robed young man said in a seemingly casual manner. However, there was a killing intent in his tone. "Protector Shur, Protector Cha. Here." Two low-level fiend demons beside the black-robed young man appeared in a flash. The black-robed young man spread open a map and marked out a location before saying in a deep voice, "Bring some men over quickly and surround this place first. Don't let anyone go." "Understood." The two protectors brought more than 10 fiend demons with them and shuttled through the forest with their movement techniques, charging at full speed. The black-robed young man sat on his carriage and headed in the direction idly. An hour later, the black-robed young man's group arrived at the destination in a grand manner while Protectors Shur and Cha rushed to his side. "Young master, nobody has left this place during this period of time." The two protectors exchanged glances. Both of them could see the confusion in the other's eyes. Although they had surrounded the place, it was empty with a few hills. There weren't even any ghosts, let alone people. The black-robed young man stood up and surveyed his surroundings, frowning as well. His senses couldn't be wrong. The golden light and the spirit consciousness that scanned him definitely came from this area. How was there nothing here? Could that person have slipped off first after realizing something? That wouldn't make any sense. The black-robed young man's expression darkened. He did not express any hostility or killing intent when the unknown spirit consciousness scanned him. Could that person have been so cautious to flee right away? The black-robed young man's glabella shone and he spread his spirit consciousness in a radius of 500 meters. He scanned repeatedly and tried to seek for clues. Although Protectors Shur and Cha were expressionless as they stood upright with their hands by their side, both of them cursed internally. They had scanned the area a few times earlier on and there wasn't even an ant around, let alone a person. A moment later, the black-robed young man retracted his spirit consciousness and looked at the foot of a hill not far away. A mocking look flashed through his eyes as he said in a leisurely manner, "Come on out. Those visual concealment techniques won't work against me." There were hundreds of demon beasts gathered in the vicinity. All of them followed the black-robed young man's gaze but they saw nothing, only a barren hill. All of a sudden, the hill seemed to have turned into a water screen and ripples appeared. A few people came out in succession. One of them was tall with arms longer than his knees. He carried a rusty rod on his shoulders and had a prideful expression, as though he looked down on everything. One of them was tall, muscular and walked like a hooligan. His gaze revealed a boundless might as though he was the king of all beasts. The other two were peerlessly beautiful women. One of them held a fan and had a slender figure that was curvaceous. Her long legs were exceptionally striking. The other one wore a fiery red dress and looked extremely docile with delicate features. Her eyes sparkled like water and she was ravishing with a flawless complexion. However, she carried a gigantic pitch-black umbrella in her hands which looked extremely contrasting compared to her demeanor. Many demon beasts gasped and froze momentarily when they caught sight of the woman with the umbrella. She was way too beautiful. She was so beautiful that they lost their minds. The woman beside the black-robed young man was also an exceptional beauty in the Black Sand Ridge. However, she paled in comparison in front of this young woman. The black-robed young man's eyes lit up when he caught sight of the two women. However, the gaze of the woman beside him turned cold. Right then, another person walked out from the hill. This person wore green robes and had refined features. However, his hair was the color of blood and he looked extremely demonic. With his spirit consciousness, the black-robed young man had long determined that the 5 of them before him were low-level fiend demons. Furthermore, they seemed like they had only just turned into fiend demons. Under normal circumstances, 5 low-level fiend demons would not amount to much within the Black Sand Ridge. However, the black-robed young man frowned slightly. For some unknown reason the 5 of them were way too calm. The 5 of them hid here and had nowhere to run after he saw through their concealment technique. Theoretically, they should be flustered and uneasy instead of being so calm. The gaze of the black-robed young man eventually settled on the young man with blood-red hair. Although this person was also a low-level fiend demon, the black-robed young man could not see through him. His spirit consciousness was blocked by an invisible barrier when it reached this person. He could not even see what the true form of this person was. The black-robed young man could roughly tell that this scarlet-haired young man should have been the one who scanned him with the spirit consciousness earlier on. The group of them were naturally Su Zimo, Monkey and the others. Su Zimo was sizing up the black-robed young man as the latter glared at him. He could naturally tell that this black-robed young man was the most troublesome to deal with among the hundreds of demon beasts. The reason why they were not surprised or panicked when they were discovered was because they had no intention to hide to begin with. Otherwise, Su Zimo would have led everyone else and left before the black-robed young man arrived. Although they were only in the Thousand Demon Valley for slightly more than 10 days, the changes in their bodies were way too great. All of them were spirit demons when they had just entered the Thousand Demon Valley. But now all of them were fiend demons. At the start, they were hunted down by many demon beasts of Howling Moon Mountain and fled frantically with nowhere to settle down. But now they were extremely calm despite the fact that they were surrounded by a group of demons. The biggest reason why they did not leave was because there was no need to. Monkey loved to fight. He had just become a fiend demon and refined his destiny dermic weapon. He was absolutely itching to fight. How could he leave without fighting someone to the end? The spirit tiger and the others were frustrated after being hunted down as well. Now that there were people who came knocking themselves, there was naturally no way they would cower in fear. Instead, their eyes shone with excitement and fervor. What great weather. It's been a long time since I've exercised. The spirit tiger cracked his neck and stretched. Audacious. Protector Sher's gaze burned brightly as he hollered, "Who are you guys? Why aren't you kneeling in the face of the young master of Black Sand Ridge?" Young master, huh? The spirit tiger pouted his lips in disdain and mocked, "How new? You might as well call me the young master of Black Tiger Ridge." Protector Sher was a pig that cultivated into a demon and his brains were on the slow side. He froze momentarily when he heard the spirit tiger's words and his heart skipped a beat as he thought to himself, "Black Tiger Ridge? Why have I not heard of this territory before?" Judging from his stance, it's likely that he comes from a powerful background. Chapter 807 Massive Battle. Chapter 807, Massive Battle. There were many overlords in Thousand Demon Valley and even more territorial lords of varying strength. Naturally, there were many territories such as Howling Moon Mountain and Black Sand Ridge as well. Protector Sher was dumb and was merely a pig demon of Black Sand Ridge. It was only logical if he had not heard of some of the territories. In his confusion, Monkey smirked and laughed. "I'm the young master of Black Ape Ridge. Haven't you heard of me before?" "Another one?" Protector Sher's heart skipped a beat. Ching Ching snickered. "I'm the young mistress of Black Crane Ridge. I'm from Black Fox Ridge." Little Fox mustered her courage and wanted to join in the fun. However, she was truly way too embarrassed to carry on and did not continue. She merely stuck her tongue out and acted cute. Su Zimo smiled. No matter how retarded Protector Sher was, he should be able to tell that Monkey and the others were mocking him. A series of laughter broke out from the crowd of demons around them. The black-robed young man was expressionless and remained silent. "How dare you make fun of me? You must have a death wish." Protector Sher's face turned purplish and he was enraged. His flesh expanded and his entire figure swelled significantly. Although he was still in human form, a terrifying pig's head grew on his neck. It had sharp fangs and a torrential demonic aura. The eyes of the other demon beasts shone with violence and fervor as well. All of them were ready to rip the group of people into shreds with a single command from the black-robed young man. Suddenly, the black-robed young man said, "I don't care which territory you are from, but I can tell you that this is the Black Sand Ridge. You have to obey the rules of Black Sand Ridge here." "Foo-foo." Monkey smirked and revealed 2 rows of pearly whites. "I don't care what kind of nonsensical rules you have. I was born to break rules." Apart from those 2 women, the rest of them. The black-robed young man paused briefly before uttering coldly, "Kill them." "Ha." Protector Sher brought out a gigantic iron rake and his rotund, massive body soared into the air. He glared at the spirit tiger furiously and descended with a maddened roar. He hated the tiger for embarrassing him thoroughly and charged at the latter right away. "Moo." Protector Cha hollered and reverted to his true form. He was a gigantic bull demon. He raised a pair of sharp horns and panted with steam out of his nostrils. His eyes were locked onto Monkey not far away as his hooves dodged the ground, creating dust clouds. "Leave that foxy chick to me." The woman beside the black-robed young man and looked at Little Fox with evil intentions. Jealousy could be seen in her eyes as she licked her lips. The woman's tongue was extremely long and was forked. "It was a snake woman. Don't harm her." The black-robed young man glared at the snake woman and warned, as though he could see through her intentions. Although the snake woman was indignant, she replied with a smile, "Don't worry, young master. I'll discipline this lass properly for you." A few fiend demons wanted to fight for credit and charged towards Ching Ching and Su Zimo at the same time. The black-robed young man laid back on his carriage with an idle expression. It was clear he had no intention of making a move. Su Zimo followed suit and did not make a move either. Monkey and the others had just become fiend demons and were raring to fight. This was the best opportunity for them to get used to their newfound strengths as fiend demons. Su Zimo only had a single target, the black-robed young man. He could tell that although the black-robed young man did not look old, he was far from simple. There was a high chance that he was a mid-level fiend demon. On the other side, a huge battle had broken out. Protector Sure swung his rake heavily and created an arc in midair before smashing down towards the spirit tiger. The spirit tiger reverted to his true form and moved swiftly in a flash. Before the rake even landed, the spirit tiger was already in front of Protector Sure's chest. He reached out with his tiger claws and thrust forward. Protector Sure was alarmed. He had not expected the spirit tiger's counterattack to be this vicious. If his attack landed, he could smash the spirit tiger's head, but there was a chance that his life would be in danger as well. They would have to trade lives. It wasn't easy for me to get to the status of a protector. Why should I trade my life with yours? At that thought, Protector Sure released a tremendous amount of force and pulled back the momentum of his rake to switch tactics at the last moment. He swept the rake horizontally instead towards the spirit tiger with massive strength. Clang! Sparks flew everywhere when the spirit tiger's claws clashed against the rake. All of a sudden, electric currents surged through the spirit tiger's body and cruised through the point of contact between the tiger claws and the rake and entered Protector Sure's body. Groar! Protector Sure released a tragic cry and the pig hair on his body stood upright. He was fuming with black smoke and his flesh was charred. Hee. The spirit tiger made use of the momentum to lunge forward and thrust 10 claws viciously into Protector Sure's chest. Blood flashed. The 10 claws dug deep into Protector Sure's chest. Under normal circumstances, this would definitely be a severe injury for any demon beast. However, the spirit tiger felt his heart sink the moment his claws dug into Protector Sure's chest. The flesh of this pig demon was way too thick. Pig demons might not be strong in many things, but they had coarse skin and thick flesh. The spirit tiger's claws could not even reach the pig demon's organs after piercing in, let alone the latter's vitals. Go to hell. Protector Sure gave a menacing laugh and suddenly grabbed the spirit tiger's head with both arms. At the same time, he raised his head and a pair of sharp fangs on his lower jaw protruded upwards and pierced towards the spirit tiger's throat. The fights between demons were almost all melee combat fights that were the most dangerous and susceptible to instantaneous changes. A moment ago the spirit tiger had the upper hand. In the blink of an eye he was the one in danger. Before he could withdraw his claws that were dug into the enemy's chest, his body was locked and he had nowhere to escape from the incoming fangs. All of a sudden, the spirit tiger's heart skipped a beat and a searing pain tore through the bloodline between the gap in his knuckles. The sound of a sharp weapon tearing through flesh could be heard. Protector Sure's fangs were inches away from the spirit tiger's throat, but they froze on the spot motionlessly. The spirit tiger broke free of Protector Sure's grip and retreated backwards. Apart from 5 sharp claws on his palms, 2 more sharp daggers protruded from the gaps between his knuckles and they were filled with blood. These 4 tiger claws were extended earlier on and pierced into Protector Sure's chest. Protector Sure's eyes were widened as he lowered his head slowly to look at the blood oozing out of his chest. The life force within his body was draining rapidly as well. With a thud, he fell onto the ground and no longer breathed. The spirit tiger's heart raced after his close brush with death. However, there was no fear within his eyes. Instead, they became even more fervent. Ha 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 ha. He reared his head in laughter. I don't care if you're a protector, you'll still be slain by me all the same. On the other side, Protector Cha's hooves dug furiously as he raised his bull horns with a slumped head. Dust clouds flew everywhere his muscular, mighty body charged past. Even the ground quaked. This was one of the demonic arts of the bull race, the wild bull charge. At its full power and speed it could even smash mountains. There was no low-level fiend demon that would dare to take it head-on. Monkey carried the iron rod on his shoulders and was indifferent towards the incoming bull demon. However, the scarlet glint in his eyes intensified. Chapter 808 Duels. Chapter 808 Duels. The gaze of the black-robed young man shifted as he looked at Monkey not far away, slightly roused. Among the protectors of Black Sand Ridge, Protector Cha's strength was only in the mid-tier. However, his wild bull charge was not something that many protectors could confront head-on. He did not believe that this monkey that had just become a fiend demon could take on Protector Cha's charge. Bang! Boom! Boom! The sound of the hooves were like thunder. Protector Cha sprinted the entire way and his force was at its limits when he closed into Monkey. Moo! He let out a maddened roar and thrust forward. Good timing. Finally Monkey moved. He patted the tail end of Imminent and the entire rod suddenly bounced. Monkey gripped Imminent with both hands and swung his arms to smash down violently on the incoming bull head at the front. Imminent streaked through midair and created a series of afterimages. Bang! The two demon beasts clashed against one another. Immediately after, the jarring sound of bones cracking echoed. Right in front of everyone, Protector Cha's head was smashed into the ground by Monkey's rod and brain juices and blood splattered everywhere. Even his essence spirit was destroyed by Monkey's rod smash and he died on the spot. All the demons were in an uproar. None of them expected two protectors of Black Sand Ridge to die the instant they exchanged blows. Many demon beasts that were charging forward staggered in their tracks. Crack, crack, crack. Cracks appeared one after another on Imminent and golden rays of light spilled out. The black-robed young man squinted his eyes and lamented to himself as he took a clear look. This should be the item that caused the momentary gold flash earlier on. Initially, only a single piece of rust fell off from Monkey's Imminent. But now, after the terrifying head-on confrontation with Protector Cha, more rust pieces fell off Imminent one after another and revealed the bedazzling golden rod beneath. Given the way it looked, anyone could tell that it was a rare treasure. Monkey Demon, don't get cocky now. The two of us will take care of you. Before the sentence was finished, two fiend demons charged over. Their bodies were massive but they were extremely agile. One of them was pitch black and the other was snow white. They were both bear demons. Both of them whipped out sabers that slashed down from the skies as they charged forward. The two bear demons had chemistry and moved in unison. It was clear that they were specialized in their combo attacks. The two sabers were not ordinary either, with two dermic patterns respectively. They were two middle-grade perfected Lord Dermic weapons. I don't care if you are bears or heroes, scram. Monkey whirled Imminent and smacked the two sabers left and right. Clang, clang. Sparks flew and the clanging sounds from the two sabers echoed. Even middle-grade perfected Lord Dermic weapons could not withstand the power of Imminent. Monkey's bloodshot eyes swept across Imminent. When he found that there were no scratches, he could not help but rear his head in laughter, delighted. Ah, great, great. What a great treasure. Follow me from now on and I promise you'll never be covered in dust ever again. The two bears were shocked upon losing their dermic weapons. The moment they charged forward they wanted to retreat. There was no way Monkey would accord them that chance. Along with two tragic cries, two gigantic swollen bodies were sent flying by Monkey's rod. They were half dead with their bones and tendons snapped by the time they landed on the ground. On the other side, the snake woman had already arrived beside Little Fox. Her eyes were flirtatious and she reached out to Little Fox's cheeks with her slender fingers as she said in a coquettish manner, "Young lass, your skin sure is smooth. Gosh, I'm envious. Come over and let me have a touch." The snake woman's charming smile was laced with a lethal killing intent. However, few people could notice it. In Black Sand Ridge, she was a renowned viper and many fiend demons died in her hands. She was far superior to Little Fox in terms of cultivation realm. However, her bewitchment techniques truly did not amount to much compared to Little Fox. Little Fox retreated half a step back with a calm expression and avoided the snake woman's incoming finger by a hair's breadth. A faint stench wafted over. There was a sinisterly green, thin needle between the fingers of the snake woman. If Little Fox allowed the snake woman to touch her on the cheeks earlier on, her face would have been ruined even if she did not die. The snake woman's viciousness was chilling. A furious look flashed through Little Fox's eyes as well as she thrust the pitch-black umbrella in her hands forward like a spear. It was extremely fast and instantaneous. After a year of training in the ancient battlefield, Little Fox had grown rapidly and was no longer cowardly or weak. "Fufu, the lass is angry, huh?" The snake woman jeered and floated in retreat, raising her palm gently. A green fluid splashed in Little Fox's direction. The expressions of many fiend demons changed when they caught sight of the green fluid. All of them retreated with wary looks on their faces, afraid that they might be implicated. The green fluid was the most toxic poison the snake woman possessed. A single touch would rot one's flesh into pus. The poison fluid was extremely powerful and could even destroy some dermic weapons with a single drop. Little Fox did not panic or fluster. She opened the pitch-black umbrella in her hands and it shielded her like the firmaments. The poison of the snake woman splashed onto the umbrella completely. There was no reaction. The frightening poison did not create even a single ripple when it splashed onto the umbrella. It vanished completely like a gigantic rock that fell into the ocean, as though the pitch-black umbrella had consumed it. The snake woman was secretly alarmed when she caught sight of the pitch-black umbrella not far away. The pitch-black umbrella resembled an endless abyss and she felt as though her soul was about to be drawn in with a prolonged glance. The snake woman had a feeling that even she would be devoured whole if she fell into the pitch-black umbrella, let alone her poison. At the same time, Ching had already begun fighting with a few fiend demons. She reverted to her true form and her crane cried endlessly. She flapped her wings and shuttled through 5 fiend demons with her movement technique. It seemed as though she was trying to defend herself desperately. After all, she had only just become a low-level fiend demon and had not adapted to the power of a fiend demon completely. Ching's maneuvering space decreased continuously against the combined attacks of the 5 fiend demons. "Demoness, surrender. Our young master will definitely take good care of you," a fiend demon said lustfully. All the demons roared into laughter. Ching's expression was cold and she spat out an intricate-looking feather fan with a single thought. It expanded along with the wind and swelled in midair. The fan was azure green and seemed like there were thin flames burning on it. The surrounding space was even contorting from the heat. The expressions of the demons changed. The azure green fan seemed extraordinary and gave off a scorching heat. "Die." Ching's glabella shone and she injected the power of her essence spirit into the azure green fan before fanning it in the direction of the 5 fiend demons. Swoosh! A green ball of flames blazed up and engulfed the 5 fiend demons. No matter how they struggled, the 5 fiend demons could not extinguish the flames on their bodies. In the blink of an eye, all 5 of them were burned into ashes and the remaining white bones fell piece by piece from midair, fuming with green smoke. "Pust!" The group of demons gasped. What was that feather fan? How was it so strong? In the blink of an eye, a few fiend demons on the side of Black Sand Ridge were dead and they had suffered immense losses. Black Sand Ridge was losing in the duels of dermic powers after the fight broke out. The expression of the black-robed young man turned grimmer and he finally sat up on his carriage, as though he was prepared to make a move. All of a sudden, the black-robed young man sensed something. Not far away, 2 gazes were fixed on him in a threatening manner, resembling 2 sharp swords that were warning him. Chapter 809, Spirit Consciousness Clash. Chapter 809, Spirit Consciousness Clash. The black-robed young man turned around and caught sight of Su Zimo, who was not far away. A mocking look flashed through the eyes of the black-robed young man. Although he could not see through Su Zimo, he could sense that the latter had only just become a low-level fiend demon as well. To think that a low-level fiend demon would dare to threaten and warn him. Killing intent surged within the heart of the black-robed young man. Right when he was about to attack, he saw 3 fiend demons beside him charge over. The 3 fiend demons saw that Su Zimo had refined features and merely stood quietly behind Little Fox and Ching empty-handed. As such, they thought that he was the easiest to deal with. How weak are you to have to hide behind two women? I'll see how long more you can hide. A fiend demon gripped an iron spear and hollered. The blood chi of the fiend demon surged and dermic powers rumbled from his spear. He glared at Suzumo's face and thrust his spear forward. Suzumo remained motionless with his hands behind his back, as though he was scared stiff. A violent glint flashed through the eyes of the fiend demon and he could not help but smirk. He could visualize the sight of Suzumo's heart penetrated by his spear. His blood could not help but pump excitedly. A cold glint closed in rapidly. Suzumo did not even blink as though he had not seen it at all. Just as the cold glint was less than an inch away from his face, Suzumo suddenly made a move and grabbed the spear at lightning speed. His fingers gripped the spear firmly like iron hoops. The smile on the fiend demon's face froze. It was too fast. He could not even see how or when Suzumo made his move. By the time he reacted to it, the spear in his hands could no longer push further. Not only that, his spear could not budge from Suzumo's palm no matter how much strength he exerted. Right then Suzumo spoke. His voice was calm and emotionless. Indeed, I'm weak. However, I'm strong enough to kill you. Before Suzumo finished his sentence, his palm went limp and slapped the spear with a coil and a tremble. The spear swiveled at a high speed. The fiend demon could not maintain his grip on the spear and let go by instinct. Ah! He shrieked and the flesh on both his palms were ripped. Before he could react, an overwhelming burst smashed onto his chest and sent him flying. His body was repelled uncontrollably as he flew back and zoomed past trees on both sides of him. Bang! Finally, he smashed against an ancient tree and his body came to a stop with leaves falling endlessly before him. Immediately after, he felt a sharp pain spreading from his chest. Instinctively he looked down. There was a long, cold spear stuck in his chest. It was his own spear. His chest was pierced by his own spear and blood gushed everywhere. How could this be? The light in his eyes gradually dimmed and his head slumped down with fresh blood oozing from his mouth. The black-robed young man narrowed his eyes. The exchange between the two of them lasted less than a single round and the fiend demon died before it could even react. However, the black-robed young man saw everything clearly. The spear did not merely pierce the fiend demon. Suzumo snatched it over and flung in reverse, pinning the fiend demon to an ancient tree with the spear through its chest. Although the entire process seemed simple, the black-robed young man knew that it required terrifying burst power, immense combat talent and experience as well as fearless courage to be able to react with such ease. The counterattack would have failed without any of those qualities. Even if he was the one in the same position, he might not have been able to react the same way. Before the black-robed young man finished his thought, the two other fiend demons that charged towards Suzumo arrived. Bang! Bang! Suzumo's figure flashed and he did not advance nor retreat. He cut before the two fiend demons and attacked left and right, punching with a frightening strength. The two fiend demons were sent flying and by the time they landed on the ground they were corpses. It was clean and precise. The change to Suzumo's bloodline and body through the two essence spirits he gained upon advancing to the nascent soul realm was unimaginable. Although he was only at early stage nascent soul, none of those ordinary low-level fiend demons could pose any trouble to him. The black-robed young man soared into the air and lunged towards Suzumo immediately. Swoosh! Suddenly, a tremendous energy fluctuation spread from midair. Heaven and earth shook with a rampant might and every single fiend demon present felt shudders. Void Reversion Realm. That was a power that could only be released at the Void Reversion Realm. It was an attack of the spirit consciousnesses. Be it nascent souls or low-level fiend demons, both had already cultivated essence spirits. The existence of an essence spirit naturally meant that spirit consciousness would be present. However, for nascent souls and low-level fiend demons, their spirit consciousnesses can only be used for detection purposes and aren't strong enough to launch attacks. Only essence spirits of void reversions or mid-level fiend demons are able to materialize and launch attacks. The black-robed young man who was the young master of Black Sand Ridge, was a mid-level fiend demon. An attack from the spirit consciousness was a killing move targeted at one's essence spirit and was extremely dangerous. If one failed to defend against it, their essence spirits would be severely damaged and they would die on the spot. Even deities wouldn't be able to survive. The powerful fluctuation of the spirit consciousness spread through the air like clouds with a scorching heat as it rippled towards Suzumo. Su Zimo's expression changed. His spirit perception was alarmed and he felt chills before the attack arrived. The scarlet-haired Een spirit that was in the middle of the spirit platform was created from the mystic classic of the 12 demon kings of the great wilderness. Although it was strong, it was only an early-stage Een spirit and was not at the level where it could launch a spirit consciousness attack. It was the same for the black-haired essence spirit. Su Zimo was rather helpless against the spirit consciousness attack of the black-robed young man. That was the reason why mid-level fiend demons could suppress low-level fiend demons. Superior dermic power was not the only reason. A single spirit consciousness attack could suppress all low-level fiend demons. Su Zimo had just advanced to the nascent soul realm and was unfamiliar with the means of combat at this level. How could he deal with something that was at an even higher level, the void reversion realm? The black-robed young man stood in the air and crossed his arms with a smirk. To him, that attack alone was enough to kill Su Zimo. The overwhelming spirit consciousness surged over. Su Zimo had nowhere to run. If he allowed the black-robed young man's spirit consciousness to charge into his spirit platform, his spirit consciousness would definitely be severely injured. All of a sudden, a flash of inspiration crossed Su Zimo's mind. The scarlet-haired Een spirit that was in the middle of the spirit platform rose all of a sudden. The black-haired essence spirit that was initially in a corner rose at the same time. Both essence spirits advanced towards one another swiftly and fused together. Su Zimo's essence spirits were each created from a part of his soul to begin with. They naturally faced no difficulties fusing together now. A brand new essence spirit appeared on the spirit platform. The hair of this essence spirit was split between red and black and it had a bloodshot left eye and a pitch-black right eye. Although it was in the shape of an infant, it had a cold expression that was unmatched. It gave off an unprecedented dominance that overlooked the rest of the world. The power of the essence spirit exploded with their fusion. Naturally, the spirit consciousness became incomparably vast and formed an ocean that surged with raging tides in the spirit platform. This brand new essence spirit released a roar from the middle of the spirit platform. Boom. Su Zimo's glabella shone and released an incomparably frightening spirit consciousness shockwave that smashed violently onto the incoming spirit consciousness. Chapter 810 Suppression. Chapter 810 Suppression. Boom. The two spirit consciousnesses clashed against one another violently and released an earth-shaking explosion. Shockwaves rippled layer by layer and spread through the voids. The ancient trees in the surroundings were snapped when the shockwaves swept past them. The black-robed young man initially had a relaxed expression with his arms crossed as he awaited Su Zimo's demise. To think that he would meet with such an impact. Caught off guard, he was swept away by a tremendous force and flipped a few times in midair, almost falling over. Su Zimo staggered a few steps in retreat before coming to a stop as well. Both of them were evenly matched in this spirit consciousness clash. All the demons were in an uproar. Be it demonic or human cultivators, everyone had the same knowledge that low-level fiend demons could not release spirit consciousness attacks. The essence spirits of low-level fiend demons were the most fragile. Once out of the body, they perished with ease when exposed to the elements. The strength of the spirit consciousness released by a weak essence spirit of that level was limited and could not launch attacks. However, the scene witnessed by the group of demons right now had surpassed their understanding. The black-robed young man was momentarily stunned with a shocked expression. How was that possible? How could the spirit consciousness of a low-level fiend demon be this strong? He was a mid-level fiend demon. He was a full major cultivation realm above the other party. However, this person could match him in a spirit consciousness clash. In reality, the black-robed young man did not know that Su Zimo's essence spirit, body and bloodline had not been completely transformed with dermic powers just yet since he had just advanced to the nascent soul realm. In other words, Su Zimo was not even considered a proper early-stage nascent soul just yet. Once Su Zimo's cultivation realm was stabilized after a period of time and he refined both his essence spirits using the Een Spirit section, Purple Thunder Manual and Great Day Rulai Sutra, the black-robed young man would be severely injured with just a single clash of their spirit consciousnesses. Interesting. The black-robed young man composed himself swiftly after the shock as he glared at Su Zimo with a burning gaze. Let me see just what secrets your body holds. I don't think you'll be alive to do that. Su Zimo sneered and arrived before the black-robed young man in a flash. He reached out with his massive palm and smashed down onto the latter's head. You must have a death wish. The black-robed young man narrowed his gaze and did not retreat or dodge. Instead, he punched towards Su Zimo's incoming palm. Right before the fist and palm made contact, the black-robed young man smirked with a delighted expression. He flipped his palm and a cold glint flashed. A black spike that was 3 inches long appeared. The moment the black spike appeared, there was a nauseating stench. It was laced with poison. His move was extremely sudden. The black-robed young man felt that Su Zimo's death was certain. Even mid-level fiend demons would be doomed if they were struck by his black spike. Unexpectedly, Su Zimo's expression did not change, as though he had realized it earlier on. The cicada senses autumn coming before the wind even starts to blow. Su Zimo had long detected danger through his spirit perception. The instant the black spike protruded, he switched tactics and flicked his finger instead. His metallic fingernail was the one that smashed against the black spike. Clang. The sound of metal clashing could be heard from the clash. The black-robed young man shuddered and the black spike nearly flew from his grip. Psst! What tremendous strength! The black-robed young man was startled. The power of that single finger flick almost sent his black spike flying. If that palm strike had landed, his head might have been split into pieces. Crack, crack, crack. The black-robed young man was decisive and the sound of tendons and bones stretching echoed from within his body immediately. Demonic chi surged as he transformed into a scorpion that was the size of a cow in midair. Finally, the black-robed young man had revealed his true form at this point of the battle. He was a scorpion that had cultivated into a demon. This scorpion was pitch black and covered by a layer of shiny metallic armor that looked to be invulnerable and tough. The surface of the armor was even lined with dense, thick fur that was laced with poison so that nobody could attack him. Of course, the most striking things were a gigantic pair of pincers at the front of the black scorpion that were nearly a third of his size. The pincers released clanging sounds as they opened and closed. No matter the physique, anybody would be cut into two if they were caught in those pincers. Now that the black-robed young man had reverted to his true form, he was at the peak of his combat strength. Reveal your true form and let me take a look at what you are, or you won't get the chance to anymore. The black-robed young man glared at Su Zimo and sneered. Su Zimo reared his head in laughter and wagged his finger. Why do I even need my true form to kill you? Brazen. The black-robed young man was enraged and charged over with his pitch-black, gigantic pincers flailing wildly. A nauseating stench surged over. The two pincers danced in midair and chopped down continuously. However, Su Zimo's movement technique was agile and the consecutive attacks of the pincers missed completely. The clanging sounds could be heard echoing endlessly. The pair of pincers could be used interchangeably as scissors or axes. Despite his failed attacks for a long time, the black-robed young man was neither discouraged nor anxious. He had a cold gaze as though he was waiting for an opportunity. After Su Zimo avoided the pair of pincers once again, a dark streak of light flashed in midair. It arrived instantly. A nauseating stench surged over. Some of the demon beasts that were closer felt dizzy and collapsed onto the ground limply after smelling the stench. A dark color gradually spread through their skin. That was the killing move of the scorpion race. Scorpions were laced with poison from head to toe and their tails were the most toxic. The streak of dark light was the black-robed young man's tail. The black-robed young man was scheming and hid his tail from the start. He was only trying to paralyze Su Zimo with his previous attacks. This was his lethal blow. However, the black-robed young man could not spot anything unusual on Su Zimo's face, as though the latter was completely unaffected by the aura of his tail's poison. There was no way the black-robed young man could know that Su Zimo cultivated the mystic classic of the 12 demon kings of the great wilderness, possessed tsunami blood and flowed with the bloodline of the dragon race within his body. The poisonous gas could not even close into him with a slight circulation of his blood chi. Su Zimo could withstand even more toxic poison, let alone the poison of this scorpion tail. Suddenly, Su Zimo's gaze focused and he reached out, avoiding the poison sting on the scorpion's tail by a hair's breadth and gripping the root of the tail. The poison sting on the tail was the sharpest part of a scorpion's body. Many scorpion demons would refine their own tails as their destiny-dermic weapons. Su Zimo avoided the poison sting of the tail and gripped the tail at the base. With a jerk of his arm, he caused a tremendous amount of force to surge into the black-robed young man's body. The strength of the black-robed young man dissipated momentarily and he could not react right away. Su Zimo did not give him any chance to breathe and gripped the scorpion tail. He swung his arm in a huge arc and slammed the black-robed young man's body violently onto the ground. Boom. There was a deafening sound. A massive crater was formed on the ground as mud and soil flew everywhere. Tragic cries sounded from the black-robed young man's mouth. He felt as though his body had been split apart. Even his organs have shifted positions. The black-robed young man coughed blood through the damage to his organs and he was in so much pain that he almost fainted over. Chapter 8:11 Essence Spirit Exit. Chapter 8:11 Essence Spirit Exit. Although the black-robed young man had also been through many battles up till this point of his cultivation, he was the esteemed young master of Black Sand Ridge after all and mostly escaped unscathed. At the very least, no demon in Black Sand Ridge would be foolish enough to provoke him. Furthermore, he broke through a few years ago and cultivated to become a mid-level fiend demon. Indeed, his pride was not unwarranted. Even without the protection of the Black Sand Ridge territorial lord, he would have been a somebody in the territories in the area as well. To think that he would end up in such a tragic state in his first battle as a mid-level fiend demon. The thing he could not accept was that he was defeated by a low-level fiend demon. How was that possible? Although the black-robed young man's bones and tendons were almost snapped and his mind was in a mess, he could not figure it out still. Even a pure-blooded ferocious beast might not be able to kill him with their major cultivation realm difference. What was the background of this man? How could a low-level fiend demon release a spirit consciousness attack? Countless doubts crossed the proud black-robed young man's mind. He must be hiding some secrets. It must either be some rare treasure or a powerful secret skill. If I can kill him and steal his treasure or secret skill, my strength will definitely explode. The black-robed young man initially harbored thoughts of retreating. However, his greed took over him with those thoughts. Riches were gained in treacherous situations. No matter what, he was a mid-level fiend demon and he could still fight. There might be a chance for him to secure victory despite his disadvantage given his superior cultivation realm. If he missed this opportunity right now, it would be too difficult to capture these 5 people if they were to head to other territories in the future. At that thought, the black-robed young man took a deep breath and consumed some spirit herbs. His glabella shone and he channeled his essence spirit, gathering dermic power continuously. Black Sand Eclipse. The black-robed young man roared with bloodshot eyes without even turning back. Many Black Sand Ridge demon beasts that were initially fighting against Monkey and the others were shocked when they heard that. All of them bolted in retreat with wary expressions, wanting nothing more than to get away. Right as Su Zimo was about to advance and kill the black-robed young man, he felt a wild wind roar in his surroundings as black sand flew towards him. Instantly the entire world went dark. It was as though the sun had been devoured. Black Sand Eclipse was the ultimate technique that brought the Black Sand Ridge territorial lord to fame. Every single speck of black sand contained the poison of the scorpion race as well as tremendous dermic powers. It was incomparably powerful and would grind away one's skin and bones. Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat. He could feel sharp pains each time a speck of black sand struck his body. It was not obvious and he could endure it still. His body had turned even more frightening after his advancement to the nascent soul realm. When his blood chi surged, even ordinary dermic weapons might not be able to hurt him. However, eyes were the most fragile and could not withstand the attack of the black sand. Instinctively, Su Zimo closed his eyes. The moment he closed his eyes, his heart skipped a beat. The wild winds gusted and black sand blanketed the skies. Suddenly he discovered that the black sand was not only offensive and powerful, it could even isolate his 5 senses. Even his spirit perception felt delayed and fuzzy against the envelopment of the black sand. Although he could still sense danger, he could not determine its exact location. Although Su Zimo was surprised, the black-robed young man was shocked. If it was any other mid-level fiend demon, they would have been doomed if they were shrouded by this black sandstorm. Most of them would become dried corpses within several dozen breaths. He had not expected Su Zimo to be able to withstand the attack of Black Sand Eclipse with his bare body. The black sand washed Su Zimo's body continuously and his green robes were already riddled with holes. However, his skin underneath was completely fine. The black-robed young man grit his teeth with a sharp gaze and channeled his essence spirit continuously to imbue even more dermic power. He believed that Su Zimo had no means of escaping the envelopment of the black sand. No matter what, he was bound to win. All of a sudden, a beam of light flashed in the black sand. The black-robed young man widened his eyes and watched everything in disbelief. Su Zimo had opened one of his eyes within the black sand. The light came from his right eye. It intensified and grew increasingly bright. It was like a blazing sun. Although the black sand was strong with boundless dermic powers, it could not devour that blazing sun. It was like the eye of a divine being. It was cold and authoritative. This is. The black-robed young man's scalp prickles and he felt chills down his spine as he suddenly shrieked, "Visual technique!" A bedazzling light column surged through the black sand and tore through the voids, illuminating the world like it was day. Light had returned. Boom. The light column tore through the black sand instantly and struck the black-robed young man viciously. It tore through the back armor of his scorpion body and penetrated his chest. However, not much blood flowed out of the massive bowl-sized wound. It was cauterized from the burn. Illumination Eye, a secret skill of the dragon race. Although the black sand was strong, it could no longer block Su Zimo's vision. Su Zimo located the black-robed young man's position and injured the latter severely with an instantaneous attack. The black sand dispersed. This time round, Su Zimo did not accord the black-robed young man any chance to even take a breath. He charged forward in huge strides and stomped onto the back of the black-robed young man heavily. Snap. The black armor on his back shattered. That single stomp crushed the spine of the black-robed young man. Boom. Su Zimo leaned in and punched the black-robed young man viciously on the head. The head exploded and red and white fluid splashed onto the ground. The black-robed young man was dead. Su Zimo stood up, frowning slightly. Although he had killed the black-robed young man with overwhelming means, he felt something odd in his mind as though something was amiss. Suddenly, Su Zimo felt as though someone was peeping on him. He spun around with a bright gaze and glared in the opposite direction. In the depths of the forest, a pitch-black scorpion the size of a thumb hovered in midair. It gave off a faint glow and possessed a menacing expression with a venomous gaze. The pitch-black scorpion looked exactly the same as the black-robed young man who had just died. He froze momentarily and was instantly enlightened. The thumb-sized pitch-black scorpion that glowed softly should be the essence spirit of the black-robed young man. At the Void Reversion Realm, when one was a mid-level fiend demon, the essence spirit could break free from the shackles of the physical body. It no longer feared the scorching heat nor cyclones and could roam the world freely while crossing boundless distance. This was the realm where the essence spirit was described to be able to exit from one's body. As long as the essence spirit was not dead, a cultivator won't die even if his physical body was destroyed. Given the opportunity, an essence spirit at the Void Reversion Realm can even assimilate the body of another person and be reborn in another method. Of course, no matter who it was, even if they possessed boundless dermic powers, they could not assimilate others limitlessly. Moreover, assimilation was extremely dangerous and there were a lot of restrictions. Simply put, every person merely had a single assimilation attempt. Even so, it was a frightening prospect. It was equivalent to an additional life. The black-robed young man was impressive as well. When he realized that there was no hope for his physical body, he was decisive and gave up on his body instantly to escape with his essence spirit. This was the first time that Su Zimo had an actual fight with an expert at the level of a mid-level fiend demon. He was unfamiliar with their methods, and that was the reason why he made the mistake of allowing the black-robed young man's essence spirit to escape. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.